Yes.
The lead Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1368 of the War News stream. And today we have very big news. The Netherlands has opened fire at drones invading a NATO nuclear site today in a very big change. We've also seen that major flights have been canceled to Venezuela, and also Crimea has been sieged by Ukrainian attacks. And also at the same time, I got us blocked by the Russian special envoy today on Twitter. Big whoopsie on that one, but it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world, as significant developments have unfolded inside of Europe, the Americas, and also personally for this channel as well, as we have now made it into the world news as of tonight. Nevertheless, we have been able to hear of significant developments, especially in Europe, as the Dutch armed forces have engaged and attempted to shoot down Russian drones overnight that violated the airspace of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. According to information that was provided by Dutch authorities, drones were once again sighted within restricted and sensitive airspaces of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and for this reason, the Dutch armed forces were rolled out of their barracks and were given orders to fire and shoot down the drones. Fire was directed towards the drones. We are unclear at the moment whether the drones sustained serious damage, but the drones apparently veered out of view and then disappeared into the night. There has also been an ongoing drone incursion again tonight at Eindhoven, and we do believe the Dutch authorities are attempting to respond to this incursion as well and shoot the drones down. This is the first time in recorded history with the ongoing conflict that any NATO state has directly fired at one of the Russian drones that is currently flying over their airspace, and making it incredibly clear that winds of change are finally coming to Europe. And it actually appears that an unlikely contender, the Dutch, are the very first to openly engage and fire upon Russian drones within their skies, even beating the Polish to the punch of being the first to that award and that trophy. Nevertheless, we have heard that the Russian Federation has continued today to see that the war is not going quite well, as Ukrainian drone attacks did pummel the Russian Federation's key infrastructure at Ryazan and in Sevastopol, along with other significant damage being caused to power plants within the occupied territories, once again creating another significant energy blackout. On top of that, we have been able to hear of significant developments today in terms of U.S. foreign policy, as so much pushback has been provided to the 28-point peace plan that not only is the U.S. government backing off of the peace plan for the large part, but they are also starting to create a large amount of ambiguity as to what the peace plan actually was, with some statements today that some claim to have heard from the Secretary of State making it largely sound that this was pretty much the Russians' terms of surrender that were being presented to Ukraine on the behalf of the United States, while other statements out of the White House have made it appear that the plan actually was not only spoken with and drafted alongside the Russians, but apparently also the Ukrainians simultaneously, although the Ukrainians so far have never even claimed that they were involved in the process so far. Still, Kirill Dmitriev, who's the special envoy for the Russian Federation, attempted to try and clarify the Russian position and the facts of the matter from the Russian side. That ended up getting us banned on Twitter by the special envoy Kirill Dmitriev with our response, so we have now made it into world news today. We'll be covering that here in a little bit because it is comical, and I also got to give a huge shout out to Enforcer Matt for pissing off Kirill Dmitriev and having him crash out on us on Twitter.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Honestly, I was waiting for the day that we got banned by one of the Russian top diplomats. I was waiting for the day because occasionally I'll tweet something here and there to show my frustration, and it looks like it pissed that guy off. He couldn't handle any heat, by the way. I barely said anything to the guy, and he had to block us on Twitter. So what a sensitive individual, by the way. What a joke.
I got to tell y'all, this was apparently his closest graze to danger, at least in his mind, ever since that bear almost mauled him in Alaska when he went there a couple of months ago. But moving on from that crazy deal, we'll be getting into that later tonight, folks. That isn't the first and foremost thing we're going to cover. It's not the biggest piece of news that happened today, but we did get banned by the Russian special envoy. So, that's news in itself. Anyways, moving on out of that, while the special envoy Kirill Dmitriev was getting butthurt and crashing out on us and banning us from his page on Twitter, the Ukrainian armed forces were continuing to hold the lines and inflict significant casualties on the Russian Federation in the area of Pokrovsk and also throughout larger areas of the battlefield, even including some more obscure fronts like the Sumy battlefield, which is still ongoing at this moment. Meanwhile, we've also seen the Israelis have continued their airstrikes against Hezbollah within the Bekaa Valley. Hamas. No, correction, I did say it correct. Hezbollah within the Bekaa Valley in southern Lebanon. I'm so sorry, everyone. The Iranian terrorist groups, sometimes they're a little bit confusing. All of their names start with an H, generally, even the Houthis, which is very confusing. Meanwhile, we also have heard in the American hunt for Captain Crack Sparrow that U.S. Special Forces are now being deployed to the Brazilian city of Manaus in the middle of the Amazon rainforest in possible preparations for a penetration into Venezuela through the Amazon rainforest within the southern part of the country. Meanwhile, the Venezuelan Air Force was out in full scale today throughout larger areas of the coastal regions, and the United States of America is continuing to conduct live fire exercises and extend NOTAMs off the coast of Venezuela. Additional news did come out that apparently a new phase is going to be starting in several days, but once again, folks, we do not know what the new phase is, and we're generally waiting to see what it might turn into. Nevertheless, we have an absolutely humongous and major amount of news to cover again today. And of course, folks, there is absolutely no shortage of news to cover, like every other day of the week. Basically, there's something always going on out there. So, getting us on into the major news of the day, we are going to be moving directly into the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And this is actually something that a lot of people do not know, is that the Netherlands is not a republic like the French Republic or the Federal Republic of Germany or Poland. The Netherlands is still actually a monarchy and a kingdom for that matter. The Kingdom of the Netherlands has never really seen a large amount of drone incursions until very recently, generally within the last few days from what we can tell. Drone incursions have been conducted in larger numbers inside of Denmark, Norway, Sweden, the Baltic states, Germany, and France, along with Belgium, but we've never seen a large number of drone incursions occur in the Netherlands. We do not know why that has been the case up until very recently, but it does appear that drones are finally starting to appear within Dutch airspace, as news has come out just a few hours ago that drones were spotted over the area of the Eindhoven airport in the Netherlands, and we do understand that Dutch authorities are going to be responding to that incident as quickly as they possibly can, as the Eindhoven airport is a somewhat significant one for the southern area of the Netherlands, and incredibly important for the nation's economic output and also their logistical supply chains for the city and the surrounding areas. Still, that is not the moment or really the big news that we're going to be talking about tonight. It's actually an incident that happened about 16 hours earlier. Now, here's something that's quite interesting. The Dutch authorities did see, apparently, that some drones had been seen over the area of the Volkel Air Base between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. The drones were observed by security personnel. Air Force personnel raided their hands E for everyone and deployed weapons from the ground to shoot them down. The drones departed and were never recovered after they were fired upon. So this a statement by the Dutch Ministry of Defense is the first confirmed statement that we have gotten, and considering that this is from an official government source, we are taking this at face value, that the Netherlands is the first country in NATO to actually fire upon a Russian drone that is within their airspace. This is the first time ever. We have actually seen multiple drone incursions conducted by the Russian Federation, not only within prior months, but in incredibly low intensities throughout the prior years, especially within Romanian airspace, and Romania has never, over the course of 2.5 years of drone incursions, fired upon a Russian drone and directly attempted to shoot it down through armed action. Poland, which is also the second largest country in NATO in terms of Russian drone incursions by number, has also never fired upon a Russian drone in an attempt to shoot it down. That has never happened. The Netherlands, which just started to have drones fly into their airspace about 2 or 3 days ago, from what we understand, have fired upon the Russian drones just within about 72 hours of the first appearance of drones within their airspace. I'm going to be honest with y'all, that is pretty damn crazy. And the second thing I also have to say is that is very wild out of everyone in NATO, the country that has the biggest balls in engaging and shooting down Russian drones isn't Poland, and it isn't a Baltic state, and it isn't Finland, and it isn't Sweden, it's not France or Germany, or Poland, or Romania, it's the Netherlands. Out of every country in Europe that would have ever shot at a Russian drone, the Netherlands was probably one of the most unlikely countries to do such an action, right next to Denmark, as the Dutch army and the Dutch armed forces are incredibly well trained and well equipped, but they're not incredibly large. And much like Denmark, the Netherlands could see that their leadership is gripped with fear that if they conduct a hostile action against a Russian drone, and if the Russians respond, NATO may or may not be there to really help them out. That's generally what paralyzed Danish decision making when the drones were flying through their airspace in incredibly large numbers and high intensity over the prior weeks. Nevertheless, the Dutch authorities, while many people have always said that giving the order to shoot at these drones is a really hard order to give, apparently the Prime Minister in the Netherlands didn't believe that. He got the call and they said drones are flying in the airspace, and he said, shoot them down, I'm going to bed, see you around tomorrow, click, and then he went right to bed and he slept soundly after making that decision. This is...
And also, by the way, the Netherlands being right next to Belgium, Belgium so far has refused to shoot at any of these drones, and Belgium's been basically harassed for the last few weeks and has really put up no defense hardly at all. So considering the fact it's literally right on the border with the country that would not shoot them down, that's also kind of interesting as well. So good on the Netherlands for doing that. And also, in my opinion, it was prudent that they shot at them, because this thing's flying over Volkel, which is literally a nuclear base. It holds some of the B-61, I believe they're B-61 nuclear missiles or nuclear bombs that the U.S. is stationed there. So also a very big payload they've got that base.
That is true. Most of America's B-61 tactical nuclear bombs are actually inside of the Netherlands. Only 2 of them are inside of Germany, and they're actually within a more obscure airbase. It's not Ramstein. It's further north of Ramstein within the Ruhr Valley area. But most of our tactical nuclear weapons in Europe are actually inside of an airbase in the Netherlands at the moment. And so it is quite interesting. Also, by the way, I forgot to mention as well that some of our tactical nuclear weapons are also inside of Belgium as well, around the area. And let me see if I can get to that blurred out airfield to be able to show it to y'all once again. Oh, it's always hard to find. It's right along the border, and it's just the hardest thing to find. I do not know why, because it's right around this area right here. Unfortunately, I suppose. Oh, here it is. It's the Kleine Brogel Air Base. This is actually another facility where B-61 tactical nuclear bombs are stationed at for the United States Armed Forces, or particularly the U.S. Air Force in Europe, which is under the command of the 3rd Air Force out of Ramstein Air Base in Germany. But still, this is quite a significant action, and this is showing that the winds of change are starting to happen in Europe. A while ago, not a single European country, not even the strongest like the Poles, would ever dare to fire upon a Russian drone that was violating their airspace. But now, out of every country, the Netherlands is the first to do it. And I gotta say, a huge round of applause. And I hope that everyone puts an LSA in the chat for the Dutch government as well as the Dutch armed forces, because this is the kind of strength and action that NATO needs to see internationally amongst all of our allies within the alliance whenever Russian drones are violating the airspace. Every single country should have the very same response that the Netherlands has, which is to immediately deploy air defense forces and to begin engaging the drones with open fire. That should be the move that every country is making. The Dutch are the first, and hopefully they will not be the last, and many countries will follow along with the Dutch example. We also have a little bit of additional news here as well about the drone attack. Well, not really drone attack, but drone incident that happened around the area as the Royal Netherlands Air Force attempted to shoot down drones spotted over Volkel Air Base last night, according to the Defense Ministry. Security personnel detected the drones, prompting the response, and the drones flew away and were not recovered, although we do believe that some of them were stricken or struck by ground fire from below. Really quickly to show y'all the Volkel Air Base, let me show y'all where Volkel in the Netherlands is. It's actually right down here, and this is the Volkel Air Base. Not blurred out yet. I have a feeling that after this incident, the Dutch will ask Google to blur out the airbase. But nevertheless, this airbase is a somewhat significant one, at least for the operations of the Dutch Air Force. The Dutch Air Force generally operated historically a large number of F-16As, but they're the modified version, so they're the F-16AM Block 15, if I'm not mistaken, which practically upgrades an F-16A, which were some of the earliest F-16s that were exported to a modern C or D variant of the F-16, which is incredibly competent and capable and generally is in line with the large majority of F-16s that are currently in service with the U.S. Air Force. This base is quite significant to them for that matter. And to also show you this as well, crazily enough, the Dutch Air Force is not a small one and is not a minor force within the area. The Royal Netherlands Air and Space Force houses at the moment a whopping, and let me see if I can get you all the modern figure here just to make sure that we quote it exactly. They house at the moment 47 F-35A Lightnings, 47 of them. That is an absolutely massive amount. And an additional 11 are still on order. So once they get the additional 11, they will have roughly 58 F-35A Lightnings that will be operational within the Dutch Air Force, along with an entire 9 Airbus A330 MRTTs, which are the Voyager aerial tankers of the Royal Air Force and the Royal Australian Air Force. These are quite large. These have the fueling capacity of a KC-135, which are some of the largest and most capable aerial tankers within the United States Air Force, and the Dutch have 9 of these. As a singular nation, that is an incredibly large amount of logistical capabilities that they have in the sky, and this also allows for them to conduct prolonged loitering operations in the air. Not only that, they also have a larger amount of transport aircraft, once again for the size of their country. 4 C-130 Hercules, 1 C-390 Millennium, and also a Gulfstream G650, so that way they can style on the Russians after they get done obliterating them with the Air Force. They also have an endless supply of helicopters, 28 Apache attack helicopters, 20 CH-47 Chinook heavy lift helicopters, an additional carousel, with 12 of those on order. Those are largely what's called in the French military the Super Puma. We also see that they have 12 Cougars, which is also another version of the Super Puma platform, and even 19 NH-90s. We could go through the rest of the trainer aircraft, satellites, and the unmanned drones that are under their control as well, but largely I think y'all are getting the point. The Dutch are not a weak country, especially when it comes to their Air Force, and they are a force to be reckoned with, at least in the skies over Europe. And it appears that even over the skies of the Netherlands, the Dutch Air Force's ground air defense forces are apparently a force to be reckoned with because they engaged the Russian drones and ran them off into the horizon after they came under fire. This has led a lot of people to wonder what in the world happened, at least in the drone defense scenario, to where they fired upon the drones, but the drones then vanished into the distance. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about that right now?
All right. So, of course, like the enforcer said as well, good on the Dutch for actually taking the big step of finally firing at these drones, violating NATO airspace. And, of course, these drones were flying over the Volkel Air Base, which is a nuclear-armed base. But the big deal is the drones were not shot down. Even though they were shot at, they weren't actually downed and actually brought down onto the air base. Allegedly, the drones simply vanished and they went off into the wild blue yonder. So, are the Dutch a bad aim? Are they a bad shot? Or was there something more advanced with these drones that maybe we're not aware of? And it looks like 63% said the Dutch simply missed the drones, while 12% said the drones must be very advanced, and about 8% said, I doubt the Dutch even shot at them for real. So I think the Dutch actually shot at them. I don't think they would lie about that because no other NATO country shot at them. So it wouldn't be out of the norm for them to say that they chose not to shoot at them. They would simply join the other ranks of NATO countries that haven't shot these drones down. So I would say it's likely the Dutch simply missed because, of course, they're not used to firing at drones over their airspace. So maybe they're simply rusty, perhaps. That's one possibility. Some people, about 12%, are saying the drones must be very advanced, but I'm not really sure of any drone that is known in existence right now that could dodge air defense fire like that, or any type of small arms fire. I'm not really sure of any of them that really could, especially if they're hovering over a base, then that's a sitting target. So I doubt it's the drones being advanced. I have a feeling it's simply the Dutch missed them, and then they fled and sped off after that. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would be with the 62%. I believe that the Dutch missed the drones, and I'll give you all a very likely story, if we got all of the details, that would lead us to believe that they just missed them, unfortunately, and then the drones flew off into the sunset. The drones, at least from what we know at Vocal, and let me go back to Vocal here really quickly. Folks, for our Dutch viewers here, y'all have a lot of towns in very close proximity to each other. It is very hard to untangle them and see exactly where Vocal is. So we're just going to put this back in here and go straight to the Vocal Air Base. This is it right here. Now, well, what might have happened, the drones could have flown over the northern area of the airbase where there's a large amount of tree cover around the hangars, which means that the line of sight could easily become obscured if they move a larger distance at higher speeds from the line of sight or the firing line that the machine gun's engaging them at. So if the drones were flying over this area and the ground air defense forces moved into position and started to open fire, we do have to remember that the rules of engagement are most likely incredibly strict, as if a bullet is going up in the sky, it eventually has to come back down, so they were most likely given orders to fire in very small bursts when they are able to confirm that there most likely isn't going to be anything civilian in the backstop or wherever the bullets are falling, or they may also have been told to only fire if they have a very clear shot of the drone, and to also once again fire in small bursts due to the fear of possible civilian injury from falling bullets off in the distance. This means that they may have been able to fire a few incredibly small bursts at the drones. The drones may have been incredibly small targets at a somewhat longer range, and may have also not been stationary. Firing at a moving target at a long distance is quite difficult. The Ukrainians make it look easy, but that's because their air gunners have had a great deal of experience in aiming at these drones and gunning them down with a machine gun. Large amounts of security personnel and armed forces around the world don't have that kind of common experience to be able to do this effectively. So they most likely missed the drones. If the drones were equipped with any form of infrared, they most likely saw the bullets on infrared camera being fired from the gun, just from the muzzle flash of the rifle that would have been picked up on infrared, and that was the signal for the Russians to start flying the drones the hell out of Dodge, so that way they wouldn't be shot down. Once they started to move, the line of sight was probably broken pretty quickly, meaning that they couldn't fire upon them, and then the drones disappeared on into the night. That is a very likely sort of a scenario that we could have seen within this area that would have made it to where the Dutch did fire on the drones, but they also simply missed them because it was an incredibly difficult situation to be able to successfully engage and shoot down one of these drones. Hell, they may have actually hit it, but they may have hit a non-critical system on the drone that didn't result in the complete loss of the craft. So that's generally what I'm going with at the moment as a highly likely story.
And also, by the way, I see a lot of people speculating because, of course, and I understand it, like people want to get a quick explanation for things, but most of the time we really can't. We have to wait for video evidence to come out or more reporting. But I see some people alleging that maybe it was some type of UFO or unidentified aircraft flying over that maybe was not able to be shot down in the first place. But there's no evidence of that whatsoever, by the way. I know this thing's lurking over a nuke site, but we've been over this before. If Russia sends drones in, they're going to want to send them over to the nuke sites to do reconnaissance and surveillance. So this would seem to match up with that. And also, we have zero descriptions of what these drones even look like, and we don't even have any video or picture evidence to say what these drones look like. All we have right now is the Dutch Air Force's word on it, and that's pretty much it. So we don't know how large they were. They could have been massive. They could have been like as small as like a quadcopter. We simply don't know. And until we get those details, it's just hard to tell.
Yeah, it's incredibly hard to tell, and of course that's why we're trying to give our best extrapolation at the moment as to why this happened, why the drones were fired upon, but none were shot down, according to the Dutch. So we're trying to fill in all the blanks in between them firing at the drones and the drones not being shot down to at least give some ideas of what a plausible story would look like as to why that was the case. Still, I gotta give a massive credit to the Dutch. I mean, we have to give a huge credit to the Dutch. We have been saying on this channel time and time again that some NATO country has to get the balls and has to start shooting at these drones and at least attempt to shoot them down. They should never be allowed to fly through NATO airspace and largely just ignore them and treat them like they're not a big deal. They have to be treated like a big deal every time, and someone had to take the first shots at one of these drones even if they missed. And the Netherlands were the first. And I've got to say, I have a humongous amount of respect for the Dutch at this point. The Dutch government for giving the authorization to the ground forces to be able to fire at these drones, and also the ground forces for having the bravery and courage to be able to follow through those orders and to conduct the right action that we've been looking for months now from any NATO country. You would think that it would come from a country that has a great deal of gusto, like Poland, or you would think it would come from a nation that has a great deal of arms and abilities, like France, or you would think it would come from the largest economic power on continental Europe, which is Germany. But no, it didn't come from any one of those three. It came from a country that we have talked about just a little bit on this channel, hardly at all, to be entirely honest, the Dutch. Out of everyone on the entire continent, it was the Dutch that fired at a drone. They're really keeping up that whole silent but deadly sort of approach incredibly well. Speak softly and carry a big stick. They're doing that amazingly well, apparently, in the Netherlands. And I have a feeling that the Dutch Prime Minister is going to wake up in the morning after having given the order that that is entirely permissible, and he'll have had a very long and restful sleep. Looks like the decision to fire upon the drones isn't as hard as people have been trying to make it out to be. But moving on out of the Netherlands and the huge amount of praise that we have for them today for the great actions that they took in their own national defense and the defense of our alliance, we have seen that other countries have been taking their national defense seriously while they still haven't been firing at the drones. And, you know, of course, you can't have your cake and eat it in some countries like Poland, but the Poles are still working quite hard, at least at this moment, on making sure that they are preparing for national defense as best as they possibly can. The Polish have started today the largest defense training initiative in the nation's history, and that's across not only the modern Polish Republic's history, but over the entirety of the history of a Polish state. This is the largest defense training initiative that has ever been conducted in their nation's history in any form of existence in any era. The series of modular courses focus on practical skills for national resilience, and today, more than 50,000 people are now engaged in the first series of modular courses to train them and prepare them to serve either in mobilized conscript forces or mobilized forces of volunteer militia or armed citizenry. The plan is to have 500,000 citizens of the nation trained for service in the armed citizenry or the militia or a territorial defense force before the year of 2027. So the Polish are making absolutely humongous developments, at least in preparing for armed conflict with the Russian Federation. Currently, the Polish army, the ground army, is about 180,000 strong. That means that they are going to have a militia or armed citizenry force that is going to be about 3 times larger in size, or really about 2.5 times larger in size, by 2027 than they even have officially within the armed forces. This puts them in a great position, especially if they go through significant training courses that actually prepare them for a non-militia level of training and military service. We could see that these 500,000 men and women of the Polish Republic could become the next version of the Ukrainian territorial defense forces if Poland is ever invaded. Ukraine had a very similar system after the Russian annexation of Crimea and the conflict in the Donbass in 2014, where there were large waves of citizens that would be trained for the possibility of military service. A lot of people would know those units today as the famous territorial defense forces that are still fighting on the front line 3.5 years after the invasion of Ukraine started. And those forces have shown in a lot of ways that they were pretty much next to peer on peer with their regular army counterparts that were in contract, professional service, and even still to this day, they are as ferocious and formidable as the regular army full-timers that are in the Ukrainian army right now. And this could end up being a very similar situation for the Poles. So while the Polish haven't directly shot down a Russian drone at the moment, like the Dutch have, I do have to say that the Polish are still taking national defense quite seriously and are making the right steps in the right directions to ensure that if the Russians ever bring about the day, God forbid, where they try and start a war with NATO, Poland will be ready by every single measure possible. Also, the French Republic did make some statements today about the upcoming peace plan, and we might as well move you all into that whole peace plan news. You know, it's kind of all a part of this, considering that, you know, we're seeing that the Dutch are shooting at Russian drones and Poland's getting ready to possibly be invaded by the Russians. It makes it a little bit clear that at the moment, peace is about as far away as it could possibly be. And it does appear that the U.S. proposed peace plan has run into a couple of roadblocks, if we even want to call it the U.S. peace plan at this point, because there's been a lot of confusion about that today. So let me move you all into that news, because that is a can of worms that we have to open at this point, just to get into it. We've been getting into it for several days now, and it appears that the international and national condemnation of the peace plan has actually put enough pressure on the U.S. government that they're largely backing off of it as of today. But I got to bring y'all through the ultra confusing details that we got today over the course of the day about who the hell even came up with this thing. So, first off, the first thing that we heard today, I don't even know really how to segue into this, folks. I'm trying to think about that right now because we do this whole thing on the spot. I'm just going to read y'all what it is. I'm not even going to try and segue into it. I'll just read y'all what it is. So, this is according to Nick Schifrin. Nick Schifrin is a foreign affairs and defense correspondent for the press. So, this is what he has. Breaking. After talking to the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and Senator Rounds, Senator Rounds announced after talking to Marco Rubio that the 28-point plan was a Russian document and not a U.S. document. That's according to Senator Rounds. Senator Rounds is, the U.S. Senator for South Dakota. I just want to make sure that we have our characters involved in this story a little bit clear up front at the moment. According to Senator Rounds, this is his statement. Secretary Rubio, or Secretary of State, if you want to call him by his official position, did make a phone call to us this afternoon. I think he made it very clear to us that we are the recipients of a proposal that was delivered to one of our representatives. It is not our recommendation. It is not our peace plan. It is a proposal that was received. And as an intermediary, we have made arrangements to share it, and we did not release it. It was leaked. It was not released by our members of our representatives. This is an opportunity to receive it, and that it has been utilized and delivered to the Ukrainians, and that they will have an opportunity to respond. And in doing so, you now have one side being presented and the opportunity for the other side to respond. So what this is saying is that the other side, the Russian side, apparently gave the peace plan, all 28 points, to the U.S., and then we took it without any modifications, and then we handed it over to the Ukrainians. And if we're following this story, and if this story was true, we gave it over to the Ukrainians, and we gave them the ultimatum: accept unconditional surrender from the Russians by the 28 points they made and gave to us, or we're completely pulling military support and intelligence support to you. That's at least how this story would go. Then later on in the day, we then got an additional, even further confusing statement out of the White House, as a senior U.S. official has stated, as the current administration has consistently maintained, this plan was authored by the United States with input from both the Russians and Ukrainians. This plan has always been a hopeful start to continued negotiations and eventually the signing of a final peace agreement once and for all. Now, this is also completely different than prior stories that we've gotten, as this is saying that we actually talked to the Ukrainians and the Russians simultaneously to come up with this peace plan, which is not even the story that we were getting yesterday. The story we got yesterday is that the U.S., specifically Witkoff and Rubio, talked to Kirill Dmitriev, who's the special envoy of Russia, and came up with this 28-point peace plan without talking to the Europeans and without talking to the Ukrainians. The United States then took the 28-point peace plan on Wednesday of this week and presented it to the Ukrainians and told them that they either accepted or they face serious consequences by the United States, because they either accept this or it's nothing. So now we've been given three different stories. That was the original story that I just talked about right there, and we now have two different ones coming out today. One story, at least from what appears to be Senator Round's statements, is that the articles were actually given to us by the Russians, and then we just gave that over to Ukraine without even altering it at all, and then stated publicly for some reason that it was our peace plan, and now we're backing off of that today. The other statement, according to another senior U.S. official who spoke to Barack Ravid, is that the United States actually did author this peace plan, but we also included the Ukrainians, although the Ukrainians, if they were involved, are finding the terms completely unacceptable at this point, and that also makes no sense, because if the Ukrainians were involved, why in the world would we have to go and make a special meeting between Witkoff and Zelensky in Ankara in Turkey for Zelensky to be able to be told what the peace plan actually even is, considering that the Ukrainian government already have a very clear idea of what it was if they were involved in communicating with the United States about the terms of the peace plan. So none of these stories are making sense at the moment, and they're absolutely confused. I'll have to tell you all this, though. The one that does make a lot of sense is the one that it's just a Russian peace plan, or more so a surrender terms by the Russians to the Ukrainians. That is probably the one that I'd have to say makes the most sense. And I want to see really quickly if I can find y'all the peace plan. Oh, here we are. The 28-point plan again, because Enforcer Matt was actually pointing out some interesting stuff. At least from what we are seeing in this 28-point peace plan, some of the language that's involved in it actually appears to be that of a Russian propaganda spin. And Matthew, what exactly did you see within this 28-point peace plan that you said was generally something along the lines of a Russian propaganda spin?
So I'd have to go back and reference it real quick. I'm trying to get it pulled up on my side screen so that way I can get it, but I don't have it handy right this second. So let me check here. That was from AZ Intel. So let me go grab this because I can't remember right off the bat. It's going to take me a minute to get to it, though.
Got you. I'll bring up some stuff as well that also makes this a little bit more confusing. If this was the Russian presented plan, here's another thing that I'm quite confused on. Why in the world would Russia come up with the idea of the United States pretty much stealing $100 billion from Russia in liquidated assets, and then pouring that into Ukraine, and then the Russians get no money out of that? The United States gets 50% of the profits of whatever they invest out of that $100 billion in Ukraine. That doesn't really make a lot of sense, and that also is kind of leading me to believe that while I would lean towards the idea that this is just an unadulterated Russian surrender plan that was given to the United States, at the same time, it also has stuff in it that Russia was not willing to accept when they heard about it just a few days ago. So it's just an endless amount of confusion going on, and I would be entirely honest with y'all, it's either one of these two things. Either the Russians really did give this to us, and we made practically no modifications to it, and then we pretty much gave an ultimatum to Ukraine to accept it or not, or Witkoff and Rubio, which generally appear to be the main authors of this, and there's several other authors involved as well, although they haven't really been named heavily, but apparently Witkoff and Rubio came up with this on their own, and then presented this to the Ukrainians and gave it to them as an ultimatum, and it practically is a surrender document. And now that it's gotten so much backlash from the public, now they're just coming up with any story that they can to remove any culpability of blame from the current administration or any officers of the current administration within the executive branch to see that the attention is thrown somewhere else, either directly towards the Russians to vent everyone's frustration on the Russians, or to just vent it generally elsewhere as a whole on the Russians and the Ukrainians, but no one that's currently in the administration. It's a very confusing sort of a situation at the moment, and we've been trying to piece together as much sense as we can make of it through the day. But I think y'all can tell someone out there is lying. We've got 3 different stories at this point about the very same 28-point peace plan, and 2 out of the 3 have got to be wrong. All 3 of them might even be wrong. There might even be a 4th story out there that we haven't heard yet that's the accurate one. So we're still trying to
also,
figure
by
out.
the way, did you show the response from Rubio, by the way, that recently got posted about 30 or 40 minutes ago, by the way?
I have not, actually. Let me go and get that really quickly. Let me make sure that we can
show that one, because I want to point out something in the wording of it here. I think some word games are being played with us, but let's actually look at the actual post. That way I can point this out to you all on the stream, actually, real quick.
And let's see here. Is that the one that was tweeted by Open Source Intel?
No, it should be at the top of our Twitter page.
Got you. And let's see here. Let me refresh this really quickly. I'm not seeing it at the moment. I'm seeing the Dmitriev thing at the top. Oh, wait a minute. It's the second one below. Okay, got you. So here we go. Let me make sure to get this for all of y'all. This is what the Secretary of State is saying at the moment. The peace proposal was authored by the United States. It is offered as a strong framework for ongoing negotiations. It is based on input from the Russian side, but it is also based on previous and ongoing input from Ukraine. So that's now the statement from the Secretary of State.
You see what I was wanting to point out here, though, and when I asked you to pull it up, what I was trying to get to point out here was it says it's based on input from the Russian side. Notice, though, there's a period there, and then he goes on to say, but it's also based on previous Notice previous there and ongoing input from Ukraine. Why did he choose to word it like that? That to me sounds fishy. Not saying he's lying, but the wording is a little bit off, a little bit fishy to me, because he could have simply said, we talked to Russia and Ukraine, that's how we came up with it. Instead, it's this little tricky wording here. How come they didn't base it on previous Russian input, but they emphasize specifically that's based on previous input from Ukraine? Also, by the way, there's nothing in the peace deal that really favors Ukraine. Name one thing in the peace proposal that looks like it favors Zelensky's side of the argument. I don't see anything in there personally, from my personal knowledge, that appears to favor Ukraine hardly at all. So you're telling me that Ukraine had input on this and didn't add anything that favored their country in it? I mean, that doesn't sound likely.
That doesn't sound likely at all, and that's what's leading me to believe that this isn't the case. I'll be honest with y'all. The amount of lies, or at least bent truths, that are coming out of the administration's officers at the moment is absolutely horrendous. We have the Secretary of State saying something here that doesn't really add up at all. Once you put all of the rest of the facts together, this statement makes no sense whatsoever. We have Witkoff, who may as well, at this point, in my opinion, just be parroting whatever our enemies say to us and then saying that that's a good thing to do. And then you have generally at the moment the president who's just rubber stamping all this and also acting like the war has to end for absolutely no reason rather than it just has to end. So we have all three of those different unstoppable forces, meaning the immovable object that is the Russians don't want peace because they want to win the war completely and only accept unconditional surrender from our side. And the Ukrainians want to keep the war going because they're not going to unconditionally surrender, and they're not going to meet the Russians at their demands because it's absolutely ridiculous to try and meet them at that level, which is quite literally unconditional surrender. So that's currently what we're seeing at the moment. Outside of that, though, in the U.S. government, speaking a little bit more on this at this time, it does appear that there is a little bit of a waffling, at least from the president. According to what we know now, because of the huge pushback yesterday from literally everyone on the planet, the president has now said no when he was asked if the offer was a final offer to the state of Ukraine and practically an ultimatum. Apparently, now the story today is that it's not a final ultimatum like they were making it out to be yesterday. It's just some sort of a guideline or a framework to start negotiations at. So it does appear that there has been generally a backing off of this, and while they're trying to absolutely confuse the hell out of the story on every single end, it does appear that the United States is generally backing off of this being an ultimatum to Ukraine, considering that seems to be wildly unpopular literally to everyone. I mean, there's literally not a single person in the world that I saw yesterday that agreed with us, rather than someone who's directly connected to the president in the office of the president. No one else was a fan of this except for the small people around his office. We also saw that the Russians tried to clarify a little bit today about their position in the oncoming negotiations, or more so the 28-point unconditional surrender. According to Kirill Dmitriev, he has stated that these are the facts. Ukraine leaked the U.S. peace plan through Deputy Honcharenko. I've never even heard of that deputy. U.S. official confirmed to Wall Street Journal that in this leaked plan, one point was changed from an audit to an international aid to the full amnesty. Russia did not leak the plan or its existence in details. We then responded, specifically Enforcer Matt responded, like we were going to get the quote-unquote facts from you. Not only 10 minutes later, we were banned by Kirill Dmitriev on Twitter for making the comment.
Oh man, the first banning of a Russian diplomat of the Enforcer Twitter page. That's honestly crazy. I thought it was going to be Lavrov would be the first one to do it, but it turns out we got the second-rate Dmitriev. It still counts for something, I guess, but it's second-rate. We didn't get Lavrov. I was hoping to have a Horseface block our page first, but it wasn't. It was not Horse. We got the I don't even know what this guy's nickname can be. The bear lover, I guess you could say, the one who almost got mauled by the bear when he came over here. So crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's a really crazy sort of a thing. We got blocked by Dmitriev. That's a high honor, folks. That's a high honor coming from being a U.S. citizen to be banned by a Russian diplomat, an official special envoy of the Russian Federation, to be blocked on Twitter. That's a high praise right there. But I do have to say, though, that this guy cannot take heat. I mean, apparently this guy never grew up around a kitchen, and he grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth, because the comment that Matthew made on Twitter was hardly even the most offensive comment that I've ever even seen. We see more offensive comments like that in the live chat every minute. So this guy's got absolutely no thick skin. This guy has got skin that's so thin, he probably doesn't even have any skin. Well, he's a Russian, so he's most likely a lizard or something along those lines. So it's highly likely he doesn't have any skin. But a little bit crazy to see, because if y'all remember, this was the clown that almost got mauled by a cub up in Alaska near Anchorage a while ago, in the middle of the summer when they went to go meet the President of the United States. He was the clown that we showed on film that walked up to a bear cub and almost startled it enough that the bear cub almost lunged at him before it ran away. So somehow he was that dumb to walk up to a wild cub bear and think that was a good idea. So now apparently he's also thin-skinned enough, not only along with being dumb, he's thin-skinned enough that he also blocked us on Twitter for making a very light response to him being a liar, because every single official in the Russian government, from what we can tell, has a terrible track record of being honest. If the Russians could win an award for honesty, they would never win one. But anyways, we are going to be moving on from that wild piece of news, because the Enforcers, folks, the Enforcer channel has actually made it into the world news circuit today. We were involved in a little part of it. But still, a lot of people have been talking at this point about that peace plan, that 28-point peace plan, and if it was or not a Russian document. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about that as well?
All right. So the 28-point peace plan has been backed off of by the United States, with the U.S. president saying that it's not a final proposal. It's simply a draft, basically. So that is what's being said right now. But also, there's another controversy that we just went over, that some are alleging it's actually a Russian document that was taken directly from Russia and then used by the United States, and they falsely claim that it was a U.S. proposal. So those are the allegations out there right now. We're not sure what the truth is, but what does the audience think about that whole situation? And 48% said it's likely a Russian-authored document, while 26% said it's likely a U.S.-authored document, and 14% said it was merely translated by the U.S. officials. And like I said, right now we do not know, but we do have some investigating to do right here on the air to investigate what the likely answer may be. And Enforcer, I actually fed this agreement into Grok, which is the AI onto Twitter, and pull this up, by the way, on our Grok tab. There should be a history tab on Grok where you can actually see this query that I posed to it a minute ago. Go to Grok.
Got you. And let me go to Grok. Let's see. Is this a Grok in Afghanistan? Let's see here. I went to the Grok page. It's not. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. I'm sorry. I have to click. Russia to English translate. Oh, here we are. Oh, I see you know you're grokking well. Good one. And so, Matthew.
So this is here's what I did, folks. I took the alleged agreement, the one that they're saying is the 28-point peace plan. It's been published all over Twitter. I took that document, I fed it into Grok, and I asked it a simple question. I said, does this seem like it was translated from Russian to English? And I'm going to let the Enforcer take over here and go over what Grok responded based on that document.
This is the following answer from Grok, which looked over the document. Yes. Also, I will read y'all the prompt. Does this seem like it was translated from Russian to English? Speaking about the exact text that has been given to the public from the 28-point peace plan. Yes, this text very strongly exhibits characteristics of a translation from Russian into English, most likely machine-assisted or done by a non-native speaker who is translating quite literally. Here are the clearest indicators. Word for word, phrasing, or Matthew, unfortunately, I don't know how to pronounce that word. Phrasing typical of Russian English translation. Ukraine's sovereignty will be confirmed sounds like a direct rendering of this Russian phrase, which says the similar thing in Russian. A comprehensive non-aggression agreement will be concluded, very close to the Russian bureaucratic style, which it also cites right here. All ambiguities of the last 30 years will be considered settled, typical Russian diplomatic jargon. Dialogue will be held between Russia and NATO instead of a dialogue will be held, or Russia and NATO will hold talks. Mediated by the United States, placed at the end, mirrors Russian sentence structure to resolve all security issues and create conditions for de-escalation, very close to Russian officialese. Minor grammatical and stylistic awkwardness that are classic Russian to English traces, missing articles in places where a native speaker would use them, mediated by the United States, should be the United States, is actually correct, but the whole clause feels off. The U.S. will receive compensation for the security guarantees, missing the before U.S. in some styles, but more importantly, the phrasing is unnatural. If Ukraine invades Russia, the verb invades feels too strong and literal. A native diplomatic speaker would probably say, launches military action against Russia or similar. It will lose the guarantee, abrupt and unidiomatic. At Moscow or St. Petersburg without cause, missing a missile or missiles, which once again showing what that would look like in Russian, which in Russian it would grammatically make sense, but directly and literally translating it into English, it doesn't really make a great deal of sense. Use of Russian-style bureaucratic and diplomatic vocabulary and syntax. Enlarge its constitution. Once again, a very easily said phrase within Russian. Short-term preferential access to the European market, reintegration into the global economy, lifting sanctions, rejoining the G8 group, frozen European funds will be invested, a joint Russian-American working group, very common formulation in Russian diplomatic text, and some sentences are almost literal translations of standard Russian foreign ministry phrasing. For point 22 about Crimea, Donetsk, and Luhansk being recognized as de facto Russian and the line of contact becoming the line of contact along which other agreed territories is controlled is extremely close to how Russian official documents and statements are worded in Russian. The conclusion from Grok is that this highly likely was directly translated from Russian into English because of all of these prior points that have been listed that Grok has pointed out. So if we were to take Grok at face value and use its statements as facts, it is highly likely at this point that the document may actually be a Russian document that the Russians translated into English and then just handed to the United States, and then Witkoff took it and then presented it straight to the Ukrainians. Actually, it was General Driscoll who went to Kyiv, but also Witkoff as well, that presented the document to Ukraine with, from what we understand, an ultimatum that followed. So it's highly likely this is actually a Russian authored document. And Matthew, what is the poll saying about that as well?
So it looks like about 48% of the audience, the most popular choice was that the audience is saying that it's likely a Russian authored document, while 26% said it's likely a U.S. authored document. So right now, folks, here's the thing. We can't say with a 100% certainty that it is a Russian document. It does seem that some senators believe it is. And also, we're looking here at Grok. For whatever it's worth, the AI analysis of it appears to think that this is a Russian translated to English document. So there's a lot of evidence pointing to the fact that it could likely be a Russian authored document, which is already not a good sign. And also, like I mentioned earlier, number two, nothing in this agreement appears to benefit Ukraine, which would also lean into the idea that this is likely a Russian document of some sort. So not a good look right here. This is not looking good. And also the need to rush this through. Like, for example, Thursday is the deadline that the U.S. put on Ukraine to agree to this. Why do they need to so quickly agree to it unless they're trying to rush this through for some ulterior reason? So to me, this really reeks. This reeks really badly, and I'm glad to see that people are looking a little bit deeper into this because it really is very fishy. But Enforcer, what say you?
It is quite fishy. I would have to be with a large majority of people. I'm also of the opinion this is most likely a Russian authored document with very little changes that were conducted by the United States before we gave the ultimatum to the Ukrainians that they have to accept this or else. That's generally what I'm thinking at this moment. There is a lot of confusion out there, folks, and it doesn't really appear that there is a right answer to this at the moment, and we can't officially say on our end on the channel that there's a right answer to this at the moment, considering that we have three entirely different stories floating around. And I do have to remind you all, at least from what we've heard from one senator, Senator Rounds, apparently according to a direct conversation he had with the Secretary of State today, the Secretary of State told him that they were just given this by the Russians. That's a very interesting sort of a thing for a senator to make as a statement. And, you know, once again, I don't want to say that this is hardcore fact because this is pretty much a second-hand source to explain how this kind of works. If this was a first-hand source, like if we had a tweet from Senator Rounds saying this verbatim on his own Twitter, this would actually be a first-hand account, as he would be stating that this was personally said to him by the Secretary of State, and then he spoke that to the public. This is being recounted by a journalist who spoke to Senator Rounds, and Senator Rounds then spoke about what he heard from the Secretary of State. So this makes this a secondary source, and one that we cannot take at full face value because it didn't come right from the horse's mouth. It came from a messenger who stated that this is what came from the horse's mouth. So for that reason, we can't take this story at full face value for that reason, source-wise, and we also can't take the other story at face value from the White House officials, or at least a U.S. official, that stated that it was authored by the Russians and Ukrainians. That's generally what the Secretary of State then also said on Twitter as well, so it's quite a confusing cacophony of stories that we're trying to get through at the moment and figure out which ones are the right ones and which ones are just flat-out lies. At the moment, though, it does appear that it's quite confusing, to say the least, and we can't even get to the bottom of it.
Also, by the way, and once again, folks, AI, you can't rely 100% on AI because, of course, it's not perfect. It is prone to error sometime. But just out of curiosity, since I was asking Grok what it thought about the possible translation of the document, I said, "Does it reek of being fishy?" That's the next question I said. And according to Grok, it said, "Yes, it reeks of being fishy very strongly." And it said, "Here's why it sets off alarm bells." It said it's written from Russia's point of view in slightly broken English. Also, number two, it's a 100% a Russian wish list presented as a done deal. And number three, it said it has completely implausible concessions from the West. And number four, it says it has classic Russian disinformation hallmarks in it. So, I mean, that's the AI saying that. I mean, the AI doesn't have a dog in the fight. At least I assume it doesn't. So, why would it be saying that unless it was being objectively neutral and reading it for what it was worth? I think anybody with like any brain could look at it and see that it clearly favored Russia heavily, pretty much all the way. So, I mean, it's really a joke. And also trying to rush this thing through as well, and also force Ukraine into it and disrespect Ukraine in the process. It's just Ukraine doesn't deserve this. It's really a joke.
Yeah, I just do not believe the Ukrainians deserve this either. And also, according to other viewers, they've apparently plugged in the same questions into other AI systems, and it appears that even other AI systems are giving similar answers, that this appears to be some form of broken English that highly likely was translated from Russian. So, with that in mind, it's quite an interesting thing, to say the least. It's about as interesting as the Department of Homeland Security's Twitter being based out of Tel Aviv. But I didn't see that myself personally, but many people said that that's what apparently came out today when the whole national basing standard rolled out on Twitter earlier today. But still, with that in mind, I'd have to say, highly likely, in my opinion, to be a Russian authored document. It seems to be the case. And that also is quite damn shameful, really. And no matter how you look at this, whether it was a Russian authored document or the United States came up with this entirely on our own, who in the hell would come up with a document like this? I mean, there has never been a moment, folks, at any point in modern U.S. politics, and I'm speaking about this from a very non-political level, that everyone on the left and the right all unified in Congress to shoot something down that came out of a president's office. Very rarely has that ever happened. That happened yesterday when this 28-point plan went public, and we were already talking badly about it the day before that even happened. And now we are seeing this is the first time in years that everyone's been unified on a singular thing, that this is a terrible peace plan and a terrible idea to push forward with. It would be better to let the war keep going and to grind the Russians down to a point that they might meet us at a level instead of accepting this. That would be absolutely ridiculous. So I hope that addresses that the best we can as far as the foreign policy developments went today. And also, we did get to see an additional statement from the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, who also added in a statement today about the peace deal. Together with our European and G7 partners, we welcome the United States' efforts to bring peace to Ukraine. It shows one thing: everyone wants peace, except Russia, which continues to stubbornly bomb Ukraine. The 28-point proposal must be strengthened. No border can be changed by force, and Ukraine must never be left vulnerable. Any decision involving the European Union or NATO must have the consent of their members. We will continue to coordinate closely with Kyiv and Washington. Our collective support for Ukraine is decisive. The security and freedom of all of Europe is at stake. Meanwhile, while Emmanuel Macron was making very well thought out and well worded statements about how the entirety of the peace agreement pretty much needs to be thrown out because it's stupid, we then heard that Viktor Orban, who sounds like cruel and he has to protect the girls, stated that Europeans must immediately and unconditionally support the peace initiative of the United States. In addition to supporting the U.S. president, we must without delay launch autonomous and direct negotiations with Russia. So it appears that, like a lot of people have been saying that Viktor Orban has a lot of connections to Russia. He might even be a Russian asset or a puppet. I got to be honest with y'all. I'm not going to say that that's a fact, but I mean, I'm starting to see that myself a lot, at least in my own beliefs. This guy seems to be leaning so hard into the Russians that, if you leaned any harder, you'd be bending over, like just to say it that way. This guy is practically a Russian with how this guy thinks, at least to me. So a little bit interesting with that. And I never believed that Gru from Despicable Me would ever be a pro-Russian. That's quite odd to me. But a fairly interesting development nonetheless. But moving on from those statements from those European leaders, it is time for us to get on into the rest of the news that we have from around the world, particularly out of Eastern Europe in the war in Ukraine, and also on the ongoing developments for the U.S.'s hunt for Captain Crack Sparrow. Before we get into all of that news and those developments, I do want to take a little bit of a moment to give everyone a halftime show, a time for a couple of drinks, maybe a restroom break, or maybe to go get some popcorn or some nice snacks, so that way y'all don't miss a lot in the meantime. And in that meantime, we are going to get a couple of questions from the chat to be able to pass the time here in the meantime, and then we'll be continuing on the news here in just a little bit. We'll be getting 3 questions and then getting right back into it. So Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so let's hop into our first super chat question of the night. And this one is going to go to a longtime channel legend. It is Sylvester the Cat, who puts in a very, very generous $121 support. And thank you very much, Sylvester, for once again helping to keep the channel running through all these years. And we appreciate that very, very much. And Sylvester said, "Hello, Matt and Enforcer. And happily, the peace plan seems to be collapsing like the last one did. And like that, I hope that this is followed by an increase in support for Ukraine. And what are your thoughts? And also, good job, Netherlands and Leaf Spring Tanker." And also, I will say, Sylvester, I'm glad it's collapsing myself as well. I wasn't really expecting it to go anywhere because the peace plan is no peace plan whatsoever. It's basically telling Ukraine to give in to all of Russia's demands and basically capitulate. So I'm glad to see it's collapsing myself because I was worried for a second there that maybe everybody in the United States would get behind it, including both sides of the aisle. But it looks like actually both sides of the aisle are against it, oddly enough, which I was not expecting. But Enforcer, what do you think?
I gotta say, I'm more than happy to see that the peace plan is collapsing. I've got to say that for once, the U.S. political landscape was not too polarized on this one topic. I wish it was like that on a lot of other topics where common ground can easily be found between the two sides. But this fell through insanely hard. This was probably the worst response that I've ever seen to anything that's come out of the president's office this year, or really over just honestly the past 3.5 years that we've been covering news. And that says a lot when you get that much of a shoot down from everyone in the world, not only in the U.S. but around the world in our alliance. I'm very happy to see that, because to try and push this on the Ukrainians and force them to accept such humiliating terms, it's literally a surrender, is absolutely atrocious. And you know something that I've got to say, this is what I don't understand about their logic. Their logic is that they say to the public is that people are dying every day and the dying needs to stop. And I don't even understand that standpoint, because it's like, so we are just so embroiled in saving as many lives as we possibly can that we will even accept humiliating terms of unconditional surrender to save some lives in an abstract way. And the lives that we save now by stopping the fighting on the front line will then be lost later from the Russians most likely genociding these people that are now within the territory that they control. So what in the world, what lives did we save? I mean, they could have said that in the Second World War. We could have said, if we stop the war with Germany and we negotiate a peace deal with Germany, many lives will be saved that otherwise would have been lost when they got shot and bombed and shelled. But then the reality of it is that if we did that, millions more people would have died, not from the direct war itself, the shooting war. They would have died in the concentration camps that Hitler and his Nazi party had created across the whole of Europe. So in no way back then would that have been true, and the same will be true now. If you try and stop this war and accept these absolutely humiliating terms, we will not save a single life. As a matter of fact, more people will die because of such a weak and idiotic action as that. There will be people that are in the occupied territories of Ukraine that will be violated. We already know of many women behind the occupied front that have been violated by the Russians, by the Akhmat, and every other force that the Russians have had within Ukraine. Then the men are also sent off into Siberia. They're separated from their children. Ukrainian children have been abused, beaten, and we've heard rumors that some of them have even been killed by Russians within the Russian Federation after they've been sent there. We have gotten reports that Ukrainian men will get shot right outside their house within the occupied territories by the Russian army if they look at a soldier the wrong way. And that's the kind of deaths and suffering that we would see. And of course, it's not as catchy and it's not as enthralling to see the carnage and the butchery when a war is not going on, but it's going to become a lot worse if this is accepted. It's an absolutely stupid plan. I'm just happy as punch to see that everyone came together to agree that this was a stupid plan. I mean, you'd have to quite literally be blind to not see it. And I'm glad to know that everyone in the Congress came together and saw that. I had to give them credit. We usually diss on most members of the Congress a great deal, but for once, they actually did show that they do truly have some intelligence in the Congress, at least at a minimum. But on top of that, I would say that I would hope that this would be followed by an increase of support to Ukraine, but to be entirely honest, I'm a little bit iffy on that, because the Europeans are the ones pretty much footing the entire bill at this point. The U.S. doesn't create any congressional drawdowns any longer to provide weapons to Ukraine. If any American weapons are provided to Ukraine, they're provided out of the pockets of a European nation who purchased the weapons and then shipped them on to Ukraine. So I don't really know if U.S. support's ever really going to return in the way it did. I would be honest with you, although, the Congress ought to take the message today that to hell with the office of the president. If they want to come up with stupid foreign policy prerogatives like this, we'll just start to approve in Congress congressional drawdowns, and then if the president shoots those down and doesn't approve them, we'll then just have a 2/3 majority vote in Congress and push it through anyways, even if he vetoes it. So then that way he has to go through with it. Otherwise, that would generally be an impeachable offense at that point. So, that's what I would generally say at this point that the Congress should do. The Congress has the power, by the way. It's not entirely within the wheelhouse of the president. The Congress has the authority and the power to restart congressional drawdowns directly from U.S. funds to provide weapons to Ukraine and to greatly reduce the burden on the European wallet to be able to finance the ongoing war in Ukraine, which will make it a lot easier for us to get on through this thing and eventually see that the Ukrainians make it to the other side to victory. It doesn't require the president entirely, and there's a way to get around the president if the president did not want to go through with such an action. And I also have to say this as a counter. The president says that America doesn't have enough money to support Ukraine, but the president also says that we have enough money to give tens of billions of dollars to Israel and also tens of billions of dollars to Argentina. So if we can come up with tens of billions of dollars for both of those countries out of the ether, we can also come up with tens of billions of dollars annually to support the state of Ukraine, which once again is pennies on the dollar in funding versus us having to directly fight the Russian Federation, and also the collateral damage that could come out of a nuclear war if that sort of an action was to take place. So, once again, that's what I generally say at this point. And I would tell you folks that here in the United States, especially considering that a large amount of y'all are citizens of the nation here watching the channel, that I would highly advise you to write your senators and your representatives for your districts and speak to them through your letters and let them know that you heavily support the restarting of congressional drawdowns by the United States of America to support the state of Ukraine and to continue the conflict into an honorable conclusion where we do not bend our knee to the Russian Federation and live on our knees for the rest of all history. I would say that would be quite a beneficial move to make. And also on top of that, it's not one that's going to be a dead end. Because, just to say this, the president is the only one who probably would shoot that down because the president, for some reason, thinks that he's the end word on everything. Well, if he shoots it down with a presidential veto, it just goes back to Congress, and then they have to pass it with a 2/3 majority, which is 66% of the votes in the House being yeas, and 66% of the votes in the Senate being yeas. And if they get that, the president doesn't even have veto power at that point. It is passed anyways. So that's generally what we should be going for, and I'd highly encourage you all to write your senators and representatives to see that such an action can be made, and that funding for Ukraine will be pushed through regardless. The power is truly within the citizenry of this country. It's not within a singular person within the Congress or within the White House. It is us, the people, who truly make the decisions in this country, and people ought to realize that and write their senators and representatives to make it clear that this is a do or die kind of a situation in y'all's minds, and if these senators and representatives do not act to pass this spending, your vote may go to their opponent in the next election. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, in my opinion. Huge thanks to you once again for support, Sylvester the Cat, and helping this channel to keep on running. And a huge job to the Netherlands, by the way. A massive shout out and praise to all of our Dutch viewers who are here right now, because y'all's country did amazing work overnight against the Russian Federation's endless aggression against our alliance. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat here goes to Fred Vreeman, and Fred put in a $100 support as well, and thank you very much, Fred, for that massive support right there, just like Sylvester threw in. And Fred said, LSA, and I hope you guys are loving Salt Lake City, and greetings from Alaska.
Hey, and a big hello up there in Alaska. Wonderful Alaska. Alaska is a really cool place, and I gotta say, Fred, a huge thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep running, and we are absolutely loving it in Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City is truly a blast. I've been enjoying every single day that I've been here. I will say this, though. Salt Lake City drivers, they aren't the greatest. Like, now having been here for a couple of weeks, Salt Lake City drivers are as unpredictable and dangerous as Highway 280 drivers in Birmingham. But outside of that, Salt Lake City is absolutely amazing. As long as you're not, like, on Interstate 15 or Interstate 215. Salt Lake City is a really great place. It's really cool. We've been just absolutely loving it here. It's getting quite cold here, actually. Today we got out and wandered around for a little bit, walking around, and the temperature where we were, I'll tell you all where we were at. We were trying to make it to the famous Donut Falls here within the Twin Peaks, or the Wasatch Mountain Range, basically. It's a hole in the rock. It's basically like a little donut, and the water flows through it into a pool of water below that. It's really cool. We didn't make it all the way up there today. It was in a bit of a little climb. It's a beginner trail, but we're very much out of shape, and I'm very much out of shape. But also, it was damn cold. It was 32 degrees, so freezing for our European viewers. That's 0 degrees Celsius. It was freezing out there today, and there was snow around there. So around this point, right, let's see here. Right here, at this point on the trail, I told Matthew, I can't do this anymore. It's just too damn cold. My hands were turning, like, solid white. They were white as sheets of paper, and my legs were, too, because I was wearing shorts in 32-degree weather, which is not a good idea. And so then we turned around and we walked back to the car and we left. But it was still a really cool little walk. And I gotta tell y'all, the forests out here, folks, they feel fake, like, with how cool they are. Like, they look like the alpine forests of the Alps around here, with the firs and the spruces and such trees that are in these mountains. It is just really a cool place. Let me see if I can show y'all a bit of. Oh, they only have pictures from the paved part of the trail. Oh, someone taking the easy way out. But let me see if I can show y'all here. This is what the trees and stuff look like around here. And for a lot of our viewers in the Northwest, this won't be cool. And to a lot of our Alaskan viewers, it won't be cool. But coming from Alabama, where we only had the longleaf pines, this is so cool, because you only see these kinds of trees and forests in, like, cartoons from, like, the 50s, or in, like, you know, like Bass Pro Shops, where they're like, oh, it's an outdoor store, and they make, like, a little mock-up of it. This is the only place that we ever saw stuff like that. So actually getting out into a wilderness that looks like that is truly crazy to us, like, really a crazy sort of a thing. So
man, I gotta tell you what, though, wearing shorts, that was crazy work. Crazy work going out there in that kind of weather wearing shorts, man. That was wild work, I gotta say. I was cold, and I was wearing proper pants, some decent socks, 2 jackets, and I was still freezing in this weather. It was actually pretty solidly cold up there. I was wanting to go straight up to Donut Falls, but I didn't know how much farther we had to go, so we turned around before we got there, and then later we found out we still had like another 1.5 miles to go. So, and it's also a lot of elevation too. So that was a doozy. I'm going to go back there, though, at some point, not anytime soon, just so the Russians that are out there listening now, since they probably want to come get us, we are not going back anytime soon. But one day I will go back here, probably maybe when it gets a little warmer, possibly, and go actually hike up this thing right here. I'd like to see it. It's very beautiful.
yeah, it was so beautiful, folks. I wish we could have walked it more, but I was so cold, folks. I got back in the car and my legs were numb from how cold they were. I didn't get frostbite or anything, but it was cold. And I was out there. We were out there for a minute. Like, we were out there for maybe 40 minutes, 45 minutes or so in 32-degree weather, and I was wearing a light jacket and shorts. So clearly not the best sort of a wardrobe for this deal. But I will have to say, outside of that, though, Fred, it has been a blast here. I absolutely love this place, and it's really encouraging me to get in shape so that way we can really, like, get out here and really just have an absolute blast wandering around in the wilderness and all of that. Because this is let me compare for this again really quickly what this looks like and what our place looks like. This is generally what the area looks like. It really does look like that. Even on that trail, it kind of looks like this, although this is a little bit more extreme. And it's really striking and really beautiful. The best place we had in Birmingham, for comparison here, was this mountain, Oak Mountain State Park. And let me see if I can show y'all a picture from one of its trails. And this was the forests of Alabama. That's what they all look like. So, like it's just not really awe-inspiring scenery, at least in my opinion, where you go, wow, nature is so beautiful. It's just kind of like, you know, it's a forest, you know. It's kind of is more like that than anything crazy. But out here, it's just truly crazy. And then there's also beautiful mountain peaks that are snow-capped around here this time of year, and they're snow-capped all the way apparently up until June or so next year. So just really crazy. I mean, it's a truly beautiful place, especially from where we came from. It is an unbelievably breathtaking, beautiful place around here. So, huge thanks to you so much once again for support, Fred. And I also got to say, Fred, one day I want to go up to Alaska because Matthew, I saw that YouTuber that you and me both like because he's a really cool dude. He's like really excited all the time. It's that Simon Whistler guy. He went on the Alaskan Railroads passenger train from Anchorage to Fairbanks, and it was so pretty in Alaska, man. It was truly beautiful up there. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow, that is so cool. I want to go up there one day.
You know, I'm a person. I like to do like not necessarily like dangerous things, but I like to do a little extreme stuff from time to time. I've heard there's some land that the U.S. will be acquiring very soon. It's an area called Siberia. It's in Russia. I want to go to Siberia, the new U.S. lands that we're going to be procuring in the future, and I want to go see how cold it really gets up there and stuff, and see how that really is.
Yeah, I mean that would really be a cool thing to see. And also, let me see. Let's see, Alaska Railroad scenery. Let me see if I can show you like some of the pictures of the. Yeah. This is it. Let me show you this, man, because it's just crazy. The train, like the passenger train up here, it's like a 12-hour train or something like that. I think it's 16 hours actually from Anchorage to Fairbanks. But the scenery the whole way through is stuff like this, which is just truly unbelievable scenery. Like incredible stuff. And I was like, wow. I was like, that is the coolest thing. Probably the most scenery you will ever see on a train. I think that even beats the California Zephyr when it goes through the Rockies. Like, this is probably the best. So I would love to go up here one day, folks, and see it, whether it's by train or car or even ship, because there's a lot of cruises that happen around here. I would be fine with either one of the three, because the United States of America is a truly beautiful country, and it is one that I really would love to explore the entirety of from end to end, because basically everything's here. I mean, like, you know what's even crazier, folks? Denali is gorgeous. I mean, look at that. Denali, Mount McKinley, either one you want to call it. Generally, when I was a kid, it was actually called Mount McKinley. They changed the name in 2010, and I believe they've changed it back. So generally, I go with Mount McKinley because that's just what I was born with. But that is a beautiful mountain.
Isn't this close to that thing? Is it true? Liz, I don't know. I've never been to Alaska, but is it true they have the little like the bear on the chain deal where you can like pet the bear?
No, that's something you came up with earlier today, man, when we were leaving.
Is that Siberia that has that? Like who's the
It's the
who's the
Russians.
group that has the bear on the chain? Like there's like the one that had the bear waving and stuff like that, and it's like you can pet the bear and stuff and everything.
It's the Russians and like the gypsies who do that sort of stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not Alaska then, but a bear on the chain thing. I was wanting to see. I was wanting to see how that was, but apparently we don't have that in America. Well, we're civilized. We don't have bears on chains.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. Also, man, look at this mountain here, how beautiful that is. You know what's crazy is that the most beautiful mountain in Pakistan looks a lot like that. It's Nanga Parbat. And this is what their version of Denali looks like. I think it's similar in height, actually. And it's only a few thousand feet taller. It's about, I think, 4,000 feet taller. But this is basically Pakistan's version of Mount McKinley or Denali. And it's kind of crazy to think that we just have mountains like that in the United States and North America, and it's not even in the Himalayas, which is the most famous mountain range on the planet.
Yeah, that's crazy, honestly. If we ever move to Alaska, or if I ever move to Alaska, whatever, honestly, I would probably have to adopt a bear. And you know how some people like have those like Rottweilers or whatever in the front yard on the chain. They have them like guard in the front yard. I would have to
Yeah.
have the bear in the front yard on the chain, a soft chain with nice felt around it and stuff like that. Obviously for the comfort of the bear, but I would have to have Smokey in the front yard, so that way if any Russians ever try to come mess with us, they could say hello to Smokey.
Man, bro, Smokey gonna smoke him. Like, honestly, like, no disrespect. But anyways, with that, folks, I hope that does address it well. Huge thanks to you so much once again for the support, Fred. And a big thanks to you for really wondering how we were doing in Salt Lake because we are having a great time. And the people here, folks, they're so friendly. Everyone in Salt Lake City is friendly. I haven't run into a douchebag yet. There was one douchebag that we did run into today on the road that laid on their horn on me when we were getting out of the park. But they were from California, so they don't count. But beyond that,
Damn, man, we don't have nothing against people from California. What are you doing?
well, I mean, like I'm saying though, for the local area, he doesn't count because he's from California.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Man,
It came
what
out
you,
weird. I
you
was
dude?
like,
You
I,
should,
I, I thought you were
man,
taking shots at Californians there for a minute. I was like, what the hell are you doing?
Man, I have no problem with Californians, but I have a problem with that one Californian that was in Salt Lake City today. Like, I have a problem with him. Like I was trying to figure out if the lane was going to shoot us right off into the middle of a major highway that was busy. And so I slowed down a little bit, like maybe like 5 miles an hour below the speed limit. And this dude just laid on his horn like he was in a rush. So when we came up to the next red light, I had to slow down a little bit by his car to take a look at him, make sure that he was okay, that he wasn't, mentally unwell and he needed help. And it seemed that I may have put him in an feared state. So then we left him alone. But still, like, what an asshole to do that in the middle of coming into a merge lane. Like, it didn't make any sense at all, and it was a tight turn. I was like, what the hell's this problem? But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that the best we can. A big shout out to Fred Veerman once again for the support. And with that, we were on to the last question of the segment, because this rabbit hole has been going on for a minute, and we got a lot more news to cover.
Yeah, honestly, and that guy, he was honking aggressive too. He did that long honk. There's that little love tap honk you can do, a little. Yeah, that's like the little something something. That's like, oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, good sir. Thank you for letting me know. And then there's the. That's the one that you go, hey, wait a minute now. What's he saying? Like, he's trying to say something with that one. But anyways, moving on from that, moving on to our last super chat here. This one goes to Eric Hutchins, who puts in a 100. And thank you very much, Eric, for that massive $100 support as well. And we do appreciate that very, very much. And Eric said, it seems like the U.S. 28-point plan was drafted to provide the U.S. with an excuse to not provide arms to Ukraine. And the U.S. is clearly bending over backwards to avoid upsetting Russia. And what are your comments?
I would have to say, Eric, that's not far off. I have very negative views of the 28-point peace plan. Generally, any sort of theory that's putting it into bad light like that one, I would generally say it's got a good amount of credence to it. And I would have to be honest with you. I don't know why we're bending over to benefit the Russians at this point. We're bending over backwards to do it. And, there's been some rumors out there that that's because there's incriminating material that the Russians possess against certain people here in the U.S. government that they don't want out. Now, I'm not saying that I believe that, but I'm starting to say that that's getting a little bit more credible as the days are passing by, because how in the world can we look at what we're doing and how embarrassing and humiliating it is, not only for the Ukrainians, but for us in the United States, and then say that that is coming from an administration that is, looking out for America's best interest with absolutely nothing in the background that may lead them to not do something within America's best interests. I would have to say that that is getting a little bit of a stronger point in my mind. Very, very slim chance still, but it's starting to grow in its significance. But anyways, I hope that does address that the best I possibly can. And a big thanks to you once again for the support, Eric Hutchins. You've been around for an incredibly long time, and I got to thank you massively for the support and helping this channel to keep running, because if it was not for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running for years on into the future, hopefully. And so with that, a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, it's time for us to move on and into the rest of the news for the night. And it's time for us to move on into America's hunt for Captain Crack Sparrow, because we've been getting a lot of fun news out of the Caribbean today, and the endless hunt for the Captain Crack Sparrow. Yarr! We have been able to hear that the United States has extended our NOTAMs, and not only has included Venezuela, but has now included the larger Curacao FIR area south of the La Española island, generally meaning that most of the Eastern Caribbean cannot be flown through. As a matter of fact, practically the whole thing cannot be flown through. This is the Eastern Caribbean through this area right here, and including the Venezuela NOTAM zone, which includes the larger majority of the eastern side of the Eastern Caribbean. Now the western side of the Eastern Caribbean has also had a NOTAM extended to it as well. So basically, the entire airspace within this area has to remain cleared out for an indefinite period of time. So we'll see what's going to be resulting from that, but it looks like we're starting to build up basically a playground for our air forces to be able to conduct actions without having to worry about possible civilian collateral from those actions. Meanwhile, the Venezuelan Air Force tried to go up into the sky today and make itself look somewhat formidable, and it looks like, I'm not even kidding, folks, this may have been the entire flying portion of the Venezuelan Air Force that is airworthy at the moment, because this is pretty much the whole of their Air Force. They only have 30 Su-30s and 4 F-16s, and it looks like the larger number of them were in the air today.
That's quite a few right there. Also, is that a normal formation? Because it looks kind of junky.
Yeah, it looks generally junky. I wouldn't really know how to explain this one. It's just a rough formation, but still a large crowd of them. It looks like it's some sort of an attempt at a show of force by the Venezuelans. Meanwhile, we did hear that the United States is still considering larger actions against the country, and we've also heard statements that apparently new operations are going to be beginning in the coming days, according to a source that spoke to Reuters. Not only that, the USS Gerald R. Ford is now within 300 miles of the coast of Venezuela, 160 miles south of Puerto Rico, and about 300 miles to the northeast of Venezuela. So it is well within striking range at this point, and also appears to have 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers directly within view of the carrier, which are providing an escort. Additionally, we have also heard more news off of the area of Puerto Rico near to Roosevelt Roads that the U.S. Marine Corps' 22nd MEU is conducting live fire exercises with heavy machine guns around the area. Nothing too big there, but the pictures were pretty cool, and I thought we'd show them and give a little shout out to the Marines that are down in Puerto Rico at the moment. Moving on out of that and on down into Venezuela, we've also seen that Russian tanker that was turned away 3 times in a row has actually finally made it to Puerto La Cruz and Barcelona, and it is the Vasily Lenovoy. The Lenovoy. That's an easy one to pronounce. But apparently it finally made it into the area of the port after being turned away by the U.S. Navy 3 times in a row. Now we are hearing that the U.S. is possibly considering dropping leaflets on Caracas, which is the capital of the country, in a psychological operation intended to increase pressure on the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro. The U.S. officials told the Washington Post that the leaflets will highlight the $50 million bounty for information leading to Maduro's arrest and conviction. If approved, the operation could begin as early as tomorrow, which is Maduro's birthday. We're not really sure if this is going to happen, and to be entirely honest with y'all, flying all the way into Venezuelan airspace without a response and then dropping leaflets on Caracas, that is a fairly unlikely action, and will most likely lead to a shooting conflict directly. We've also seen that apparently, according to some information, according to Flytex Network, there is verified local sources stating that a high-level motorcade has been seen traveling to the underground bunker complex beneath the Simon Bolivar International Airport near Caracas every night for the past 4 days and leaving again each morning. Highly likely that is probably Maduro's motorcade. But also, Matthew, what kind of breaking news do we have coming out at this very moment from around the world?
Okay, so let's put our Venezuela coverage on hold. We still have more big news to cover out of there about the upcoming escalations by the United States military, but right now we are seeing something here which we have not covered yet. It looks like the Ukrainian forces just hit one of Moscow's largest power stations, apparently right now. It's the Shatura TPP, the thermal power plant, and we have a video actually showing it. And I'm not sure if you've shown this already, Enforcer. Have you shown this, by the way?
No, we haven't.
Okay, so this is new. We haven't shown this before. So it looks like there's been a massive explosion at this Moscow thermal power plant, and it looks like it's on the northern side of the plant has exploded, and we're also getting multiple different angles here, and also a geolocation as well. So let's take a look at the video, by the way, because this is a pretty big hit, literally right outside of Moscow.
Успокоиться нахуй. Ебать-того Люсю.
That seems to be 2 direct impacts to the northern face of the thermal power plant.
Сука!
Was it a missile?
We don't know.
Пизда!
It may have been a drone.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell there. It looked for a minute like it was a pretty high velocity impact, but I really couldn't tell.
Let's take a look at that again. And it looks like it might have been slower speed, maybe. Because it looks like it didn't really like punch into the building and then exploded. It looks like it exploded on the wall, which would suggest that it was a slower speed and it allowed for the fuse to detonate the bomb pretty on the wall, more so than inside the building.
Interesting. Very fascinating, by the way. But Enforcer, let's see if we can find this on the map, by the way, because we want to see exactly where this is. The coordinates are the 3rd reply down that OSINT Technical posted down there. And also, we have another video showing the fire at the plant. It looks like the facility is now on fire in the third reply on OSINT Technical's post there. So we can see that in that second video.
This is the plant right here. This is the Shaturskaya thermal power plant.
Interesting. So yeah, show us the overall location. Like zoom out a little bit so we can see exactly where this is.
Well, actually, I will show you where it is in general. This is the thermal power plant, this is the northern face, and this is the northern face from a brick-faced building. So we are looking at this at a slight angle, meaning a brick-faced building within Shatura that they are looking at this at. This would most likely be somewhere up here. And that means that it's most likely around this building. Maybe, possibly. It looks like it's within the similar angle. Or hold up, wait a minute. It appears that the video was filmed from somewhere within the northern area of Shaturskaya itself, because it was a little bit close. If we can find that white line building in a second, we'll show that. But this thermal
the coordinates, by the way, they're if you go to the third reply on OSINT Technical's posted, the coordinates are at the bottom.
I think that's the fire at the power plant. That's the POV for this video. That is at the power plant. We're looking more so for the civilian POV right here. And you know what, folks? I'm going to take a minute because we don't do this a lot on air, the whole open source intel geolocating of footage, but we will do that this time just to be able to try and show off how it's kind of done a little bit, if we can pull it off. So we're looking for a white-faced building right there. And that is within the angle to the thermal power plant. Let's see here. Where are they looking at? Yeah, that is kind of, yeah, that might be lining up. Is that building right in front of the street? And possibly. Let's drop down on street view and take a little look. I don't think we're getting a match here. This area looks different. Let's see. So it looks like we might be getting kind of warm here. So let's take a look over here. And there's one in front of the street. There's an area here where the street intersects, but the building also is right in front of it, so it's a T-shaped intersection. And then it's also backed by more apartment blocks. So we can possibly find this. Usually, folks, this takes a little bit of a minute of digging, and I don't know if y'all want to see this. If y'all want to, let me know in the chat, and we'll keep doing it, because usually this is done off air by me, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. Like to find the location of where they're filming from. We know the exact location of the power plant, but the information I was trying to figure out here was how far away is this from Moscow? It looks like this plant is located to the east of Moscow, generally speaking, over there in this little town, and it's about. It looks like it's about 60 miles. Yeah, about 76 miles outside of Moscow. So it's pretty close. And also, this is one of the main feeder plants. It feeds electrical energy into the downtown city of Moscow. So that's obviously a very big hit right there. And that's why I wanted to point that out right now, because apparently it was just struck.
And it does appear that this building was just directly hit by a Ukrainian drone strike tonight. The damage may be significant, although it doesn't appear to be directly connected to the Moscow city power grid. It may affect the Moscow Oblast in general because of this strike. Now, getting back to geolocate, I'm just kidding, by the way, folks. I'm not going to do that too much because I don't want to absolutely burn people's time down here, and also we got a lot more news to cover. But I'm sure that geolocating, we can eventually find it, because it looks like it came from somewhere over here within this area of the city, I'd assume, with the angle at which they were looking at the building, the high-rise level of the building, which floor it was filmed from, and also the fact that there is more built-up area right outside of it. But moving on from that breaking news, huge shout-out to Enforcer Matt for sharing that with us. We will be moving on into the last bits of news that we have about the hunt for Captain Crack Sparrow. We have also been able to hear that flights have been canceled by major airlines that did fly to Venezuela in the past, as the U.S. is considering military action. Additionally, a U.S. Air Force aircraft carrying Special Forces C-146A Wolfhound was flying towards the area of Manaus, which is about a couple of 100 miles south of the Venezuelan border, so suggesting possible Special Forces infiltrations of the country. We did hear from the United States of America today that a final decision has not been made at the moment about what to do with Venezuela, whether to strike them or not, and it appears that the waffling is masterful here as well. And we are also hearing that apparently, according to some U.S. officials, they believe that covert actions would likely be the first part of new operations against Maduro. So it does appear that those special forces movements within Manaus may become a large part of the bigger picture of what we're doing against Venezuela. A lot of people are talking about the U.S.'s position on Venezuela and actions that we're taking at the moment. And man, Matthew, what are people thinking about that? And what are you thinking about that as well?
All right, so what's going on in Venezuela, the place where the U.S. is spending top dollar right now to intimidate Maduro, and also they're apparently planning a surprise for his birthday tomorrow as well, because at midnight it'll start to be Maduro's birthday. So reports say the U.S. is set to launch a new phase of the Venezuela operations, and what is your assessment? This poll is pretty much all over the place. 35% said the USA is bluffing Maduro 100%, while 28% said the USA will actually attack Venezuela soon, and 27% said covert operations are likely coming instead. So I don't know. Like, this one's a bit tricky. We've had a hard time predicting things with Venezuela because we're not even really sure what the game plan is at this point. So it seems like flying by the seat of the pants is basically the military strategy right now with Venezuela. The one thing that is certain, though, is the U.S. is making a very, very big point to intimidate and personally scare Maduro, and it seems to be working quite well because Maduro is dancing and he's acting very, very out of sorts for him to be a dictator. So I'm going to say maybe covert operations are coming. I'm just not really sure at this point, and predicting those is almost impossible. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd say I'm unsure and undecided. Unfortunately, I had to be with 10%. Really hard to predict this thing. Current U.S. administration is very unpredictable. Not because it's a strategy, it's because they don't really know what they want to do. So we're kind of just waiting to see what they're going to do, and then we will report on that. So sorry to say that to everyone. I know that everyone would like to get a good answer, and also people wouldn't like to hear us just, lay it out there, the truth of what this is. But it's basically impossible to figure out what they're going to do next because they don't even know what they're going to do next either. So moving on out of the news for the hunt for Captain Crack Sparrow, it is time for us to move on over into the Middle East. The Israelis did conduct more strikes today within the Bekaa Valley region and are continuing their campaign against Hezbollah within southern Lebanon. Moving on out of that and on into Europe, it's time for us to get on into the real news of war in Ukraine. There's a lot that happened today. The Ukrainians blew up a power plant in Ryazan. There's the flash. Here comes the boom. There it is.
Wee wee woo.
Man, they were getting into it a little bit. Also, we got to see some activity over Bryansk. Dededushe, padam. Oh? So the missile fired, and then this guy started flinging around his laden grocery bags in the house. I don't know why that was his response. Let's listen to that again. Don't know why he just like spazzed and threw grocery bags around his house, but I'm not judging. Oh!
And that was a fast one there.
I think that was a missile. Yeah, I think
was a missile.
That was a missile. Listen to that. Now, that is a fast missile right there. That is almost, that is probably subsonic, like getting close to, well, more so transonic, getting close to supersonic, because there wasn't really a lot of warning time before that thing hit. Like, listen to this. I mean, you were, like, the sound of it flying over was happening about the same time it hit the building, so it is moving at a very high rate of speed.
Do you think the Ukrainians whipped out the rods of God from Odin?
And it's not unlikely. But, I think this may have been a Neptune that was configured for ground attack. It's likely that they could have been, because those are quite fast, actually. But what a crazy hit right there. Also, we got to see that down in Sevastopol, things were not going well.
Уже по 200 азимут.
Oh.
Oh, it's Christmas. Come early.
Oh, yeah. Waste that ammo, buddy. They literally are firing at nothing.
Yeah, I don't think they know what they're trying to shoot down even. Oh! Oh!
I think they missed.
I think they did. Man, I think they did miss. I think they were about a mile behind the target, like, where the bullets were when that thing was flying. Because this thing hit and they were still firing pretty far out into the bay. So And also now
Oh,
they're,
so complete.
dude, they literally yelled, "Son of a bitch," over their radio.
You know what's also wild as well? They had the whole kit and caboodle going on. Like, go back to the beginning. They had the spotlights. Like, they actually had spotlights here, by the way, all over the ground. I think they were just trying to look busy. You know, when you're like working at a place and you don't really have anything to do, you're not really sure what you're doing, so you kind of just like look busy, like to a certain degree, so that way they can't accuse you of goofing off. This feels like what the Russians are doing.
You know, it kind of does feel like that. I mean, watch this, folks. This is where they're firing right now. So they're all firing out here. Hold up. At this very moment, right there, that's when the drone or whatever it was hit the oil depot further on in the bay. It's like about a mile to the right in terms of the firing line. And when the drone was hitting the oil depot, they were still firing in the middle of the bay, so they never even saw what was coming in. They just had some guy on the radio yelling, "It's here! It's here!" And then they all started shooting wildly into the air, just hoping to hit something.
And shooting over the skyline of a city too. So Grandmama and the whole citizenry of the city over there is going to be like probably needing new roofs before it's over with. They literally just fired like a whole like month's worth of ammo over that city right there.
Also, man, listen to the air defense commander on the radio here after it blew up, just absolutely crashing out. Listen to him.
Oh, man.
Bro, he is going
It sounds
off.
like a Call of Duty. It sounds like a Call of Duty audio recording or something.
Man, it kind of does, actually. Bro, this cracks me up, honestly. The Russians are just... They are a clown show, a living comedy. Also, unfortunately, while we are joking about the Russians are not all jokes. They are forcibly conscripting Ukrainian men living in the occupied territories now to fight in the Russian army. This video was actually taken out of the occupied city of Berdyansk and is showing Ukrainian men who have been forced into service in the Russian army.
So they're just like taking the Ukrainians off the streets and they're putting them on the bus and sending them straight to the front lines.
Pretty much, yeah, that's what they're doing these days, just to find manpower.
Wow, that's messed up.
Yeah,
And the Russians say they're winning, they say.
Yeah, they say they're winning, yet at the same time, they're conscripting citizens of occupied territories, which is illegal according to the Geneva Convention. This is an unlawful action and a war crime to force a citizen of another country in an unresolved conflict to be forced to serve in your military. Definitely a war crime. Moving on from that, though, we did see the Ukrainians land some pretty damn big hits on some power plants within occupied Donetsk, including this one. Oh, you hear that air defense? Does it work? The answer in a moment will be no, and I'll show you the clip where the answer is no. Here's the answer. No, the air defense did not work again, so they missed the incoming drones again, and they ended up slamming right into the power plant. So the power grid is once again going through rolling blackouts within the Donetsk area because the demand or the pull on the grid is not equivalent to the output that the grid is able to make at the moment within the area. Moving on out of that, though, and on out of the occupied areas of Ukraine, we also have been able to see within the Sumy Oblast that the Ukrainians are also slamming the Russians pretty heavily within this area, especially their logistics. No image.
Oh, no image. We lost it.
But, gotta tell you, well, unfortunate for them. Moving on from that, though, and into the location unknowns, we also got to see a Russian munitions truck getting blown up today by Ukrainian drones.
Oh. Also, by the way, Mr. Mega, he said, but the Russians get amnesty, so it doesn't count anymore, right? No, the Russians will not get amnesty. They want amnesty. That's probably why they had it written into that so-called peace deal that's been circulating around. Because why would Ukraine want to give Russians amnesty? They're the ones committing the war crimes, not Ukraine. So the only ones who'd want that would be the Russians. So no, they're under no circumstance do I think the Russians should get amnesty, even to end the war. The people that have committed war crimes, they deserve to be brought to justice. So to give like Putin and all the other people that want to commit war crimes a free pass is definitely not the right thing to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's the right thing to do. I will say one thing, though. Russian soldiers very rarely ever wash their hair, so it does get pretty nasty looking up there. And some Russians in broken English have actually started to say, "Извини, amnesty." And so some of them are amnesty, but it's not in the way of the diplomatic sense where they're provided amnesty. It's more so that their hair is quite nasty, and they are, or they am, nasty. Get what I'm saying? You catch what I'm saying? You catch my drift? You do. Of course you do. But moving on from that and into the casualty report, we also have been able to see the Russians have taken some losses today. It hasn't been a good day for them. According to Ms. Disa, keeper of the records, Ms. Disa stated that increases in losses in troops, tanks, and APCs. Artillery is down to single digits again, which is wonderful to see. And we also have been able to see that the Russian Federation has lost 1,170 soldiers within the past 24 hours, wounded and killed, along with 7 APCs, 74 supply trucks, 4 main battle tanks, 9 artillery pieces, 222 drones, 1 MLRS, and 1 anti-aircraft warfare system. All in all, not that bad. Not that bad at all. But moving us on down into the front lines, into the area around Bielaurivka, where you got to see the 5th Brigade obliterating a Russian assault group. And there goes the assault group. Right here. A kaboom.
Oh, I thought they were supposed to be doing the assaulting. I didn't know they're supposed to get assaulted.
And now we can see 2 Baba Yagas. So this is the 4
Oh.
horsemen of the apocalypse right here on film. They're about to clear out the rest of the assault groups.
Oh my God, they're literally just like lurking right over them.
Oh my
Oh,
God,
there's
how
more.
many
There's
of them
3.
are there?
This is the UFOs. Oh my
Oh
God,
my
they're laying
God.
waste.
They are carpet bombing them. Oh my God.
Damn. I've never seen anything like that.
Dude, the 5th Brigade is not playing. The 5th Brigade is the Ukrainian version of an Israeli airstrike. Like, my God, like, this is insane.
And these things can move. I mean, they're going fast.
So counting this drone, which I'm also assuming is a Baba Yaga, they have 4 Baba Yagas over this one Russian assault group right now. So suffice to say, they were not escaping this one at all. And they were quite accurate as well. But that's what the 5th Assault Brigade's been up to on that part of the front. Apparently, the 5th Assault Brigade is determined not a single Russian is going to make it even back to their front line. Moving on out of that area of the front and on down towards Shakove, we also get to see a Ukrainian soldier just getting tired of dealing with Russian fiber optics and dealing with one the easy way. This thing is still active, by the way, at this point in the clip. Its fiber optic wire is still attached, so this thing is still functional. So he just grabs the fiber optic wire.
That's crazy. You can control that drone with that little thin wire like that.
Yeah, it is crazy. We see him grabbing the wire and breaking it. And there we go. The drone's been deactivated. Like, it was that easy. So there went a Russian drone. This is the most lame way, most effective way, mind you all, but the lamest way that we've ever seen fiber optic drones taken out is that someone just grabs the cable and just snaps it, and the drone loses connection and is gone. So now the Ukrainians get free fiber optic spool that's left inside of the spool rack, and they also get a free RPG round to put on their own drone if they want to. Moving on from that and on further down into the city of Pokrovsk, we also get to see FPV drones doing their work in the town and clearing Russians out of some of the buildings that they're holding. Oh
my!
Whoa! I think he's not coming home for Thanksgiving. Also, we were able to see the Russians getting hit by the 68th E8. This is the Light Infantry Brigade.
Don't mistake them for lightweights, though, because they're anything but lightweights.
Man, they float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Whoa. Whoa, that was amazing.
It might have been overkill for that joke right there, but you know, you got a little boost.
Man, I'm driving a clapped out boosted Civic. Man, I'm telling you. But anyways, we can see them also hitting these Russians here in the fields. They're all hanging out around their burning vehicle. Oh, little BMP. Ho ho. 68th Jaeger Brigade was putting in the hours today. Really impressive stuff. And moving on down the front and all the way down to the southern front, near to the town of Malotukmachka, the Ukrainian 118th Mechanized Brigade also repelled a Russian assault today. Well, that was just the intro, folks. They had to do their intro card, and now we're going to be watching the Russian assault fail in real time again.
Oh, look, they're starting to blur out like the little control panel data information on the sides. That's pretty smart.
Man, it is kind of smart. What the? Oh, it's a
Oh, look, a
hedgehog.
porcupine tank.
And another one. Oh, that looks like their new modification. They went from the shed to the porcupine, so now the porcupine's going to be the thing.
A clapped out boosted tank.
Oh, man. Dude, that was a good one. That was a great one. Man, that's kind of like that. Yo, T, what the hell's that? It's Nobinia regalis. It's from the Cambrian. That thing's from effing Camden. Like, it's like, what in the world? Man, honestly, man, that thing's been cracking me up more than it should, really.
That's crazy work.
I mean, imagine it, like the funniness of it, Matthew, the humor in it. He's asking in amazement that crazy-looking thing, the Obinba regalis, is from Camden, because he actually believes that such a crazy and wacky thing could come from Camden, which is in Philly, by the way. But anyways, well, it's not really in Philly. It's on the other side of the Delaware River from Philly, but it's pretty much saying that he believes that anything could come from Camden because it's that whack, which is honestly funny in its own way. But anyways, moving on from that, folks, and explaining the depth of a Sopranos joke, it is time for us to move on up into Kyiv and cover the speech from the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, here on this very day of the war. And I hope and pray that the website for the president of Ukraine loads, because it's been getting a little slow consistently these days. Other websites load really quickly, except for this one. So hopefully we can make it in, because it would be nice to see.
We need to have the website where it's functioning and accessible for all. We have to make sure. There it is. Look at that video collection.
And
Today, you allow me the chance to speak.
And now it is time for me to talk to all of you. And I'm going to talk in Ukrainian. And I don't know what he says at the beginning, but I'm sure when I hear it, I'll be like, he says it, because he always says, hello, my fellow Ukrainians. But he says it in Ukrainsky, which unfortunately I'm not that well versed in to be able to conversate in. But with that, it is time for the speech. Without further ado, here is the speech. Speech!
Шановні українці, українки, сьогодні день, коли ми вшановуємо пам'ять мільйонів наших людей, які були убиті голодом. Мільйони страшних смертей і найбільше у Голодомор 32-33 років. Це був системний удар по українському народу. Політика геноциду, яку сьогоднішня Росія успадкувала і зробила знов частиною своєї ідеології. Вся ця війна, що триває зараз проти України і може розширитись на інші народи, це наслідок безкарності Москви. І яку б форму не мав їхній режим, якщо вони залишаються безкарними, Росія намагається повторити своє зло. Сьогодні мільйони наших людей запалять свічки пам'яті. Це наше спільне вшанування жертв Голодомору, але також це нагадування і для всіх нас, і для всіх у світі, що збереження пам'яті – це також дії на захист справедливості, на захист життя. І щоб вбивці не було жодної винагороди за знищення людей. Біль попередніх поколінь українського народу і те, через що українці змушені проходити зараз, все це дуже переплетено і багато нам говорить. Цими днями відбудуться консультації з партнерами щодо кроків, які потрібні для закінчення війни. Я підписав указ про склад делегації України, я затвердив всі відповідні директиви. Наші представники знають, як захищати українські національні інтереси і що саме потрібно, щоб Росія не здійснила третє вторгнення. Ще один удар по Україні. Так само, як в минулому, повторювала злочини проти нашого народу і проти інших народів також. Зараз йдеться про значно більше, ніж про ті чи інші пункти того чи іншого документу. Треба зробити так, щоб не панував ніде в Європі і світі принцип, що злочини проти людей і людяності проти держав і народів можуть мати якусь винагороду і прощення. Реальний мир завжди базується на гарантованій безпеці та на справедливості. І це відчуття не тільки моє. Я знаю, що це відчуття мільйонів наших людей та більшості людей у світі. Сьогодні я продовжив координацію з партнерами. Ми говорили з лідерами країн Північної Європи та держав Балтії. 8 лідерів. Увесь цей сильний регіон. І дуже ціную підтримку, і це дійсно захисники життя. Говорив також сьогодні з прем'єр-міністром Нідерландів. Я дякую за готовність допомагати та за принциповість. Будуть пакети підтримки для України. Ми постійно консультуємось на різних рівнях, також з іншими європейськими друзями і не тільки європейцями цієї країни, групи 7. Також наші друзі в групі 20 і інші країни світу. Багато хто готовий нас підтримувати. Готовий підтримувати Україну. Дякую за це. Будуть ще перемовини, і ще сьогодні кілька внутрішніх нас справ. Детально говорили з урядовцями про подальші наші кроки у внутрішній політиці. Важливо, що хороший темп у програми зимової підтримки, вже майже 10 мільйонів заявок. Наступного тижня почнуться виплати, кошти можна буде використовувати до червня, але будь ласка, заявку треба оформити в Дії чи на Укрпошті до кінця грудня цього року, до Різдва. Весь обсяг фінансів ми забезпечимо. Говорив з прем'єр-міністеркою України також про аудити, які вже розпочались в енергетичних компаніях, та про додатковий аудит всієї оборонної сфери, оборонних підприємств. Такий військовий аудит треба зробити максимально оперативно. Максимально. Відповідні контракти, фінанси, операції тощо. Я доручив результати представити суспільству і представляти їх бажано щотижнево, передавати матеріали правоохоронним та антикорупційним органам. Була доповідь головкома сьогодні по ситуації на фронті, по російським дезінформаційним операціям, їхнім планам. Найбільш складно – це Покровськ. Увесь напрямок. Значні російські сили, більше 150 тисяч, які продовжують штурми. Кожен день найбільше атак саме там. Багато місяців вже все це триває. І важливо, що наші воїни, наші підрозділи знищують окупанта. Ми проводимо контрнаступальні дії, також на межі між Дніпровщиною та Донеччиною. Ми захищаємо позиції. Харківщина, ми захищаємо наші позиції. Запоріжжя, захищаємо позиції. Там не просто Оріхівський напрямок, Гуляйпільський. Ми робимо все, щоб стабілізувати ситуацію. Я дякую всім за стійкість. Дякую всім, хто з Україною. Слава Україні!
And Hiram Slava.
And with that, that is the end of the speech from the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, here on this day of the war, 1368. And, of course, with that in mind, folks, that always wraps up our news segment for the day and moves us on into the second segment of the stream where we get to talk to all of y'all. And boy, howdy, folks, has it been another night of news. It has been another crazy night of news. And I've got to thank you all so much once again for being here so far still and enjoying the stream up until this point. Y'all been enjoying it for 2 hours. 2 hours, I says. 2 hours, that's a lot of time, folks. That's usually like a movie-length deal, and a lot of y'all spend at least 2 hours on this channel every single night. We're greatly appreciative of y'all spending so much time here on the channel and choosing this to be your primary source of news. I know that we've been able to provide another very informational and accurate amount of news and analysis tonight, like we always have. I've got to thank you all once again, and I hope that y'all do stick around. We're going to be talking about all kinds of fun stuff tonight. Trains, planes, automobiles, Utah, America, the world, and everything else in between that anyone wants to bring up, except for climate change, politics, religion, or whether the A-10 is relevant in warfare or not. Those 4 topics are off the table. If you have a political opinion, that's great. Everyone has one. You're not special. If you have a religious take, good news, everyone. Everyone has an opinion on religion. They're either religious or they're not, or they have a different religion. It's fine that you have one, and it's fine for someone else to have a different one. In this country, you can believe what you want. Also, climate change, doesn't matter if it's real or not. We're not fixing the world here on this channel, or we're not ignoring something on this channel. And A-10s being relevant in modern warfare, I have my opinions, but we all do, so no one cares. Let's just hold back on those and get through another night, folks. Just another night. That one is the one that actually will rip the whole channel apart, crazily enough. But with that, it is time for us to move on into all the questions, all the sarcasm aside and the jokes aside. It's time for us to move on into the questions. And Matthew, I understand that we have a real humdinger of a load of questions. And also, by the way, folks, I also want to show you this really quickly. Let's see. Let me go get this, Matthew, because I thought that this was just the coolest thing. I saw this map, and I'm telling you, Matthew, I'm actually going to buy this one as a poster. I saw this map of Utah. It's an elevation map of the state of Utah, and there's a load of people who print them, but let me see if I can find one to show you here, because it is the coolest thing.
Is it that 3D topography map?
Yeah, it's this one.
Oh, yeah. I've been getting hit with the ads for that for some reason. Whoa, $170 for the thing?
The one I found was like $65, so I don't know why this one's this expensive. Maybe it's 16 by 20. That kind of make. Well, mine's 16 by 20.
I will say it's pretty cool though.
Oh yeah, it's sick. The U.S. made loads of these in 1937 for practically everywhere. So you can find these like reprints of them and use them. And also, folks, another cool thing, like for posters, I found these. Let's see. I think it's let me go pull this up on the side screen so that we can find it. National Pack posters. Let me see here. Yeah, this is the one I'm wanting to find. The real deal. Let me go show you all these. These are some posters that I want to get as well from the Ranger Doug store. This is the guy who does all of the recreations, like the original reprints, and also does some like original ones himself. He designs them for the old national park posters that were made from, I think it was 1940 to 1941, and then they were suspended because of the beginning of the Second World War. But it's loads of little national park posters in that 1940s style for the national parks. They look so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, I'll admit.
Man, one of the coolest ones is actually the Mount McKinley one to me. Like, I wanted to get that one. And I also wanted to get, just to tell you, the Statue of Liberty one. This one I think he actually made himself. I don't think they had this one in the WPA registry before they suspended the project. That one's super cool. And there's just so many of them. There's so many. And Zion National Park. We better not say that name too much, or the Israelis might come over and say this is theirs. But beyond that, it's a really cool poster. I mean, look at it. It's a really cool one. And I got to say, I would like to get that one myself and have it framed. I only have so much room on my walls, though, to fit these, so I'll have to pick like 1 or 2 of them. But these are so cool. I love them. And I love the style that they're in, like the pastel colors and kind of like the simplified art style a little bit that they have. It's not photorealistic, but it's really close to it, and it's just a neat style. I think they would make for great posters. So
yeah. Also, by the way, we do have a story here, a little bit of news that came out today, by the way. It's for all the people out there that say, oh, maybe these drones flying over NATO countries that NATO is not shooting down. Maybe it's something more than simply Russia. Maybe it's something else, like maybe an unidentified aircraft or something. Nobody's really sure what it is. There is a story that came out today, which was quite interesting. It was being reported by the Daily Mail and Fox News. So, waiting for more sources. But this is coming from legit places, by the way. It's not just made up. It's coming from legit sources. Apparently, UFO-like drones were targeting a police helicopter over the U.S. Air Base in the U.K. before it vanished. And apparently this happened, I believe, last year, and they're just now talking about it now. But newly released police logs and footage apparently contradict the official explanations of a near collision between a UK police helicopter and a UFO over a U.S. airbase last year. And they had previously said it was just just a fighter jet sighting. But now apparently there's new information coming out saying it actually was not a fighter jet, and it was likely some type of drone flying over the U.S. Air Base that they couldn't identify. And also apparently it matched the speed of the other helicopters that were in the area of 190 miles an hour. So that's a little bit interesting right there. And also, by the way, these documents that are showing this story right here, it came directly from the British government. It's not just coming from, Fox News or something like that is making it up. It came from real sources. So that's a little bit fascinating right there. Apparently, the helicopter had to take evasive emergency action to get away from the thing. And it was over RAF Lakenheath, which is a major U.S. military installation in Suffolk, inside the U.K. So that's a bit fascinating.
That is really fascinating. That's interesting. And that's actually a pretty heavily trafficked area by the public as well. They hang out a lot around the outside of Lakenheath, watching aircraft take off and land here often. So that's very interesting to hear that happened there. Very interesting indeed, folks. We'll take that story for what it is. And some people are like, "Oh, we're covering UFO stories here now." Yes, I mean we moved to Utah now, don't you know? Bigfoot's real, and Mothman is too, and so is the Skinwalkers, and also the Night Walkers. Those are really real. You can see those down in downtown Salt Lake. Sometimes they come crawling out of like the sewers and stuff. But it's a interesting sort of thing there to hear about that story. And also, by the way, folks, I don't believe in this UFO nonsense. It's probably some Hobby Lobby RC on sale on Black Friday, like Alexander Neff said. He actually took the words right out of my mouth. It's probably an RC drone. It was probably something more explainable than an alien. Because, I mean, come on, folks. An alien going to Lakenheath, that's like the least interesting thing that they could look at, They could just come over here to the United States and wander around a little bit, You could see far more interesting stuff in a place like Chicago. I mean, you know what I mean? O Block is far more interesting. At least if I was an alien, I wanted to go and look at O Block and hover over that before I went and hovered over a military installation where usually not a lot's going on. So, I hope that addresses that well, at least in my opinion, my 2 cents. But with that, it is time for us to move on and into the next one. And also apparently that whole 3-Eye Atlas thing didn't really pan out either. I think that rock broke up. So now the whole alien story with that's gone.
There went that theory.
Yeah, it's like, and if I remember correctly, Matthew, I think it was something along the lines of like the same person that said that story about a different rock a couple of years ago said it again about this one, and this time it was going to be different, and then that rock broke up, so it kind of like disproves it's an alien spacecraft, because, if the alien spacecraft broke up, they're all dead anyway, so it wouldn't really count even if it was real. So, and also on top of that, what kind of aliens travel this far and make it within visual distance of our planet, and then their spaceship breaks up? Which one would do that? Like, did they just like have deferred maintenance? And also, does that mean that the ANTSB, the Alien National Transportation Safety Board, is going to have to come out here to our solar system and investigate the wreckage and figure out the cause of the accident, whether it was pilot error or mechanical failure or something? That's a question that I have. And also on top of that, folks, from what I've heard from all of the conspiracy theory people, like the tinfoil hats and everything, they told me that the United States of America is actually within the Alien National Park Service, and we are actually within the Terra National Park System. So they would actually have to go to the U.S. National Park System and pay an admittance fee to be able to even come into the solar system. And then on top of that, they would have to get a special permit to even get close to Earth because they're trying to protect the wildlife down here, us included.
Well, you see what happened was the thing got close to the Earth, but the aliens were a little bit on the introvert side. They were a little bit nervous as they got close to Earth, and they said, so they accidentally clicked the wrong button. That was a self-destruct button because they got a little nervous because they realized, oh, damn, first contact, this is too much. So then the whole thing just broke up, and the whole mission was screwed and stuff like that. They just got a little nervous, that's all.
Man, the aliens were introverted, basically. They were like, we're going to have to talk to people? Self-destruct. We can't do this. Oh, man.
There we go. Look at that.
Man.
Bad alien. Nervous alien.
Man.
Nervous alien.
Man, I'm telling you, man, nervous aliens. And man, and another thing, folks, like, don't y'all think, I mean, look at the United States. Look how bureaucratic we are. Imagine a spacefaring sort of a nation, a spacefaring government. How damn bureaucratic would that be? I mean, like, think about all the red tape and paperwork that those aliens went to even get here, to then have their spaceship rip apart in the middle of the solar system. You know, like, I feel like that would just be a big bummer. And at that point, if you're doing that much paperwork and that much effort to make it into the Terra Galactic National Park system here, to be able to get here and then also get a permit to mess with the wildlife here on the planet and maybe poke Putin in the eye or something with a stick, don't you think that if they went through all that effort to get all of those permits, don't you think that they would have at least made sure that their spacecraft would hold together when they made it here? You know, it's kind of like driving into Yellowstone and then the engine block explodes in your car.
Yeah, you know what's really crazy too? If the aliens could have landed, if they could have got their rock, and if they could have like properly landed the thing instead of exploding it, they were going to get here and they were going to make the people an offer. They were going to offer to serve man the best way they know how, which is, of course, a souffle. And they're going to give us a cookbook to show us how it's done. And you get to choose your recipe. You get to choose which one you want. You can choose a souffle. You can say, I want to be deep fried. You can say, I want to be cooked in the brain like our politicians. You can choose any recipe you'd like. You can choose any of them, actually. So that's your choice. The recipe book, the cookbook. It's a cookbook. It's a cookbook.
And also, Bunny Moon said not funny. And I have to say, they don't find it funny. I have to clarify this, folks, because they are also an alien, and one of their family members was on board that spaceship. So I'm very sorry. We're being very insensitive here. I know it's not funny that the spaceship broke up, and we're very sorry. And our thoughts do go out to the planet of Alpha Centauri 4 and the losses of those brave alien spacemen and aboard that craft that just broke up in the middle of the solar system. Damn, bro, you're going hard. Like, you were going hard on the soundboard tonight. I was like, damn. Man, with that, I hope that we've given all of our 2 cents on this whole alien deal as much as we can. But with that, it's time for us to move on to the next one.
All right. So moving back into our super chat questions and away from our segment there about the aliens and cookbooks and rocks and things like that, back to reality. This one goes to BC Skyman, and BC put in a $100 support. And thank you very much, BC, for that very generous support right there. The $100 support, one of the largest ones of the night. Of course, it's good to see you again, BC. He is back from his trip, and it's good to have you back in the live chat tonight. And Enforcer, what say you?
And it is great to have you here, BC Skyman. Welcome back from your trip. I heard you went to upstate New York, and I got to tell you, if let's see, Matthew, what was that deal? If you're under 30,
if you're under 30, he's always flirty.
Dude, we got it. We just got to do it up right. If you're under 30, Cuomo's always flirty, man. Like, but man, honestly, man, I gotta say, BC Scammon, I hope you had a fun time in New York. New York has been a crazy place lately because of the whole deal that happened in New York City with those 3 interesting characters. And I gotta say that it is one hell of a thing to have you back. I got to thank you so much for the incredible support and helping this channel to keep on running. And it's a wonderful thing to know that right when you returned, that you supported this channel and helped us continue to keep this thing running. I got to thank you incredibly for that. And also, apparently, folks, Bunny Moon said very mature about us actually giving respect to her alien brethren that died aboard the 3i Atlas. That's very unfortunate. Honestly, I think the Guardian Angels could have saved them if they had been able to go to space. But that's just me. I mean, like, look, we were trying to be serious there and give you some sympathy. And you spit in that face when we're giving you respect. What the hell's going on here? But still, a big thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, BC Skyman. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this deal possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And also, on top of that, BC Scammon, I bet your hunting trip was actually a blast. But you know something? I was just remembering. If it was actually one of those candidates that was running in the mayoral election, and they had said, we want the 3 candidates to talk about their trips on a hunting experience, the first guy would have gone, you know, that guy lives in the poorhouse. And then the next guy would have said, I don't go hunting, I love wildlife. And then he would have gone, back in 1993, a stag impaled me with its horns out in upstate New York. And he would have gone through that kind of a story. Honestly, I gotta give a bit of respect for that guy because he was in the Guardian Angels. But at the same time, the guy is quite a funny character as well. But still, a big thanks to you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, BC Skyman. And I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Hokey Redneck, who puts in a 50. And thank you very much, Hokey, as well, for being a longtime channel legend and supporting the channel once again. And Hokey said, do you hear jets from Ogden?
No, no, actually we're in Salt Lake City, like in the big bowl down here, like the big circular city. So Ogden's actually pretty far from us. Like even if we were on the northern side, Ogden is going well, Hill Air Force Base actually is 24 miles away, and from the very bottom of Salt Lake City, they're actually about 46 miles away. So no matter where we are in Salt Lake City, we never really get to hear the operations at Hill Air Force Base because it's so far away from us. Now, if you were in Ogden, you would hear them, but we're not in Ogden. So I hope that just addressed it the best I can, Hokey Redneck. A big thanks to you so much for that unbelievably amazing support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And so a humongous thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, it's time for us to move on and to the next one.
Also, by the way, it looks like Russia is reporting right now that apparently the drone that you saw that hit the Moscow power plant right there outside of Moscow, apparently it was destroyed. And what you saw there was a mistake. The drone was destroyed, and the thermal power plant simply had a little momentary issue. Apparently, a little bit of debris fell in the plant. So, in other words, a direct hit on the thermal power plant, and that's a pretty big hit right there, I will say. And Russia's trying to definitely do some cope because they were not able to protect the facility. But unfortunately, we have one more picture that just came out of it. By the way, you can see that it looks like it was definitely hit pretty much head on.
Head on, you say? Ooh,
Yeah, it was a bad hit.
two bad hits at least. Like big two of them. Two of them. Dang. Yeah, that's pretty serious.
That looks to me like Russia did a really good job shooting that drone down. Thank goodness they have good AD.
Man, thank God they shot the drone down. It's just unfortunate that only one bullet hit it, and generally it ran intact into the building. But we generally in Russia call that falling debris, because if we hit it just once, even if it doesn't take out the drone or whatever's about to hit, we still say that we shot it down. It's just that it was falling debris. So yeah, it looks like the power plant's been obliterated. But with that.
Oh, and better yet, we even have a video. We actually got the video of the exact moment here, apparently from a nearby building when they saw the drone coming in, which is a brand new angle of it. So let's take a look at that. I just retweeted it, by the way.
Oh my good, they got the right angle?
They got the right angle, the whole 90.
Man, honestly, man, it looks like the Ukrainians were just bussing on them, man. Let's take a look.
Летит уже четвертый, пятый беспилотник. Там слышно мопед, блядь.
Yeah, open the window.
Good morning, Russia. Oh.
Да,
Oh.
взрыв. Вспышка.
Oh, there it went.
Охуеть.
Close the window now, buddy.
Dude, I thought he was about to close the latch right there. I thought he was going to go click. I was going to be like, oh. I was going to be like, no way. I didn't see the drone in the clip, but we did get to see the explosion, though.
Yeah, that was a pretty big hit out there. Thank God Russia got it.
Man, thank the Lord the Russians shot it down. Geez, imagine how bad off Russia would be without air defense. I mean, look how bad off they're doing with the air defense. Imagine if they didn't have any at all, how bad that would be. Oh, man.
Can you imagine if the drone actually hit the facility? Like, if the drone actually hit the facility, that would be devastating. Because that was just debris that hit it right there. That huge flash, that was just a piece of scrap metal.
Man, honestly, man, if the drone hit the facility with how bad the damage is from just the falling debris, dude, I think the facility would be gone. I think it would literally be reduced to the foundation.
Yeah, it would have been tragic.
Nothing to see here, folks. Move on along. Nothing to see here. But moving on from that, I hope we were able to give a little bit more light to that story, and we're on to the next one.
And our next super chat here goes to none other than Hal Rose, who puts in a $33 support. And thank you very much, Hal, for that $33 support. He said, from what I see, I think the U.S. is no longer a defender of sovereignty. What say you?
Nowadays, it's kind of up to the question whether we are or aren't. And I would say that the United States of America is well up to defending sovereignty. It's just that at the moment, the executive branch isn't, for some reason. Now, I will say this. When it comes to defending the sovereignty of Israel, oh, hell and high water, we'll support defending the sovereignty of the state of Israel. But when it comes to any other country like Ukraine and Taiwan, or really anyone else in the world, that's kind of where they go a little iffy. We can give plenty of bombs free of charge to the Israelis to drop in the middle of the Gaza Strip or in Lebanon or Syria, wherever they want. Even missiles to go and blow up our own ally, Qatar. But God forbid the Ukrainians ever ask for some weapons, or the Taiwan ever asked for some weapons. I mean, like, easy, buddy. It's not like we're made of money. But whenever the wind blows in the Middle East, and the Israelis want something, we'll give it to them just fine. And then also on top of that, we end up making a major issue out of Venezuela. When we didn't really have to, we could have given that a couple of years. And I'm not saying we just completely ignore Venezuela. I would say that it is something that needs to be addressed, but not right now. Later. It could have been done later, and it would have been a lot better off doing it later, because we would have been able to make sure that all of these major events came to pass. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And also, by the way, folks, I want to say I got no real beef with Israel, but at the same time, I do have beef with the U.S. acting like we don't have money to support anyone in the world except for Israel. The Israelis, how it works right now in foreign policy is that Israel can say, the Iranians blinked the wrong way, and it scares us. And then we'll give $4 billion of bombs within the next week to the Israelis. The Ukrainians can say, we are defending pretty much the whole of Europe from a greater war with Russia, and the whole of Europe can be in agreement with them like they are right now. And then we sit there and go, America's not going to get fleeced by the Ukrainians wanting more weapons. That's absolutely ridiculous. They ought to be able to go and buy their own weapons. But at the same time, we never say that about the Israelis, about how they also have a lot of money, more than Ukraine by GDP figures, and they could just go and buy their own weapons from us directly and buy them instead of us giving them to them. And before anyone says we don't, we subsidize half of their military budget. They spend $25 billion on their military annually, and we give them another $25 billion on top of that. So they have a $50 billion military budget annually, and 50% of that is U.S. taxpayer dollars every single year. When you look at it like that, it's really hard to make the argument that we're getting fleeced by the Ukrainians, because the Ukrainians are fighting a real war against a real conventional power. Israel is fighting against terrorist groups that are hardly even armed with much of anything rather than sugar bottle rockets and AKs. But, I just got to say, folks, there's no way to not point out the senselessness of that these days. As far as the priorities go, and I'll say this again, Ukraine is our number one priority right now in foreign support, just by the sense and logic of it. Taiwan is number 2, and Israel's number 3. If anyone ever had their concerns or ducks in a row more than the other 3, it's the Israelis. And for that reason, considering that we run foreign support like a triage center, whoever's the worst off gets the most foreign support, the Israelis are on the lowest priority for U.S. support. It's the Ukrainians and the Taiwanese that would be ahead of them before we ever get to supporting the Israelis. But instead we do it the other way around, to where Israel is number 1, Taiwan is number 2, and then Ukraine is just buck last, behind everything else, although that is the most important conflict going on today. But anyways, with that, I hope that addresses that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And a big thanks to you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And so a big thanks to you so much once again, and with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, Old Warrior said, Firms isn't showing the fire in Moscow as of yet. Maybe it's very fresh. And yeah, this is very fresh. Like that strike on that thermal power plant outside of Moscow, it literally just happened like 30 minutes ago at the latest. So it's a fresh strike. It's brand new. So that's probably why it's not showing up just yet. But I'm sure it will soon. But jumping to our next super chat here, this one's going to go to none other than Gunfox. And Gunfox puts in a $20 support. And thank you very much, good sir Gunfox, for always throwing in that support. He said, 1988. Black Sea bumping incident. The Black Sea bumping incident of 12th of February 1988 occurred when American cruiser USS Yorktown tried to exercise the right of innocent passage through Soviet territorial waters in the Black Sea.
Let me go pull that up. I actually do know of that one. And the picture from it's actually pretty crazy. This is the frigate, let me make sure I get the name correct, Bezevetny, colliding with the USS Yorktown.
Damn, that's a bad hit.
It wasn't too bad. It was more of like a grazing hit. It was almost like a ship-to-ship pit maneuver, more so than anything. And also, it's a frigate going up against a cruiser, so we had the weight advantage. They would have never budged the cruiser. We would have budged them, and we did. But This kind of stuff, crazily enough, folks, actually happened quite commonly. This was one of the few that ever made it to the public, but bumping incidents actually happened commonly between U.S. and Soviet vessels around American waters, especially up in the Arctic near Alaska, and also around the Russian Federation a lot, especially in the last decades, in the 70s and the 80s. From what I've heard from anecdotal statements that have been given by U.S. sailors that were on vessels during that time, bumping incidents were actually kind of a little bit more common. Of course, they never caused severe damage to the vessels because it was always incredibly light bumps, with the bumps being initiated at very short distances, so that way damage was mitigated, and damage largely hardly ever existed from most of these actions. But still, a very crazy sort of a thing to see. And also, this was a Ticonderoga that this happened to, which is the largest vessel that we have at sea right now, next to an aircraft carrier like the Nimitz or the Ford. So, with that, I hope that does address that well. Really cool rabbit hole, by the way. And a humongous thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And also, really quickly, I do have to say this. I see this has created a little bit of an argument in the chat, whether or not my comments about the Middle East were political or not. They're not political. This foreign policy does not fall within domestic political realms. Like if people try and say that the United States supporting a country is a domestic political issue, they don't know what they're talking about. Like that's just the run of the mill sort of a deal. Foreign policy is a very business related sort of an exchange. We build up customer loyalties with our friends, like everyone in Europe and East Asia, and then we also have to look at those relationships and see if they're actually beneficial or not, or how we prioritize our resources and such things like that. That's how it works. And as far as with the Israelis currently, the issue that I have is not with their country, it's not with their position, because they are fighting a common enemy along with us. But at the same time, my issue is that the Israelis could easily fight them without us giving them about $30 billion this year, and we could give that $30 billion to Ukraine, or we could give $20 billion to Ukraine and $10 billion to Taiwan, and start building up our abilities elsewhere on other countries. But Taiwan is very important because they produce semiconductors. Ukraine is very important because it's basically the fortress of Europe at this moment. So when you look at that priority-wise, and then you look at the Israelis, and right now they're going up against a country that had their air force destroyed in the 12-day war, and then if outside of that, if they're not going up against Iran, they're going up against Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, which basically only have AKs, RPGs, and sugar bottle rockets. Why in the world are they being prioritized monetarily for support? Because out of the adversaries that they're facing, Israel is not facing at this moment a nuclear-armed power in the region. Ukraine is, Taiwan is. Ukraine is facing what was the second largest conventional army on the planet just by the spreadsheet figures, and they've been doing that for 3.5 years. So clearly, Ukraine is fighting a much larger and more important war that deserves more of our resources than Israel would right now. And then also on top of that, Taiwan is looking at a potential conflict that would even outshine the one in Ukraine. It's not happening yet, so that's why they're second priority. But at the same time, Taiwan is also in a really tough spot at the moment. So there's no way to look at that politically. That's just speaking on basic resource management and the foreign policy position and picture that we have around the globe. Because acting like the illogical perception that the U.S. just has to support Israel, even in the midst of larger things going on where our support should be elsewhere, or at least a lion's share of it should be elsewhere, and then just saying, even if that makes sense, it does not matter, we just have to give loads of stuff to Israel. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me on the foreign policy prerogatives. So with that, I hope that does address that well. It's not a political comment at all. People try to make it out to be that way, then it's because of a whole multitude of other reasons. But that's not the case at all. This is a foreign policy assessment, and who in the world could look at the situation we're seeing in the world right now and say, "Ah, yes, Israel is clearly fighting the largest fight on the planet right now." No one could say that with any good reason or sense behind it. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
You think a fur coat would be good for the winter?
I think it would, honestly. But you're going to have like the people like flinging paint on you and stuff, if you do the fur.
Oh, you're talking. Oh, yeah. You're talking about like those animal groups and stuff like that. They're like protecting the minks and stuff like that. But yeah, I like that. I like a nice pimp coat or something like that. Might be nice. You know what I mean? Like the type where you have to have a cane and all that stuff like that. That might be something good. Hey, can you imagine like Enforcer Matt going up to the Wasatch National Forest and going on the trails wearing the mink and the cane. Like that would be something else right there. And imagine if I finally got that bear on the chain and I was like walking the bear on the chain with the mink fur and the cane. Like that would be something else.
Man, you're gonna go up there and go, I'm a pimp named Slickback. Man, it's gonna be like, yo, it's Slickback. He's wandering down the trails.
Honestly, I would settle on the for the bear on the chain. Honestly, like a bear on the chain would be pretty sick. Now, obviously, a humane chain, like one where we're talking about, like one that's like super nice and stuff like that. Like the bear has got the comfort, it's got the fine food and all that stuff. But the fur coat and the cane with the bear on the chain, I mean, that would be like you'd be dripping. I think you need a bucket.
Man, honestly, man, I think you may. I think you may. Also, Matthew, do you know what the tallest mountain in the Wasatch Front is?
What?
It's Mount Nebo or Nebo. I don't know which way to pronounce it, but it's down here. It's this one. It's kind of like the big one that you see south of Utah Lake. It's this one right here. This is the tallest one in the Wasatch Front. It's about 12,000 feet tall.
Interesting.
So if you ever wanted to climb the tallest mountain in the Wasatch Front, that's the one right there. It's Mount Nebo. I think is how it's pronounced. But also, there's some really cool mountains around here in Salt Lake City. Generally, these aren't too big out here, so it's really these down here. There is Lone Peak, which is pretty much visible from the whole city. There's also Pfeifferhorn behind that, which you really can't see. And then there's also this one over here, which is O'Sullivan Peak, which is also pretty cool. Then there's Mount Timpanogos, which is also visible from most of the city in the southern part of Salt Lake. You can see this mountain. This one's really cool looking right now. It almost looks like Everest because it's so jagged on its edges. It's really cool looking. And then there's Provo Peak down here at Provo, which is the next mountains in the Wasatch Range. Really cool place, honestly, the Wasatch Range. And then if y'all know anything about this area with the railroading, I haven't been able to do a lot of railroading stuff around here yet. But there is the famous Soldier Summit that goes to Soldier Summit, which is right here. That's Soldier Summit. It's practically a non-existent town now. It almost always was, but very famous railroad here that was run by the Denver and Rio Grande. And then up here at Ogden, you go through this mountain pass here at Morgan and Echo up to Evanston, and that's the famous Union Pacific's Railroad's Wasatch Grade. So two of the most famous routes on any railroad in America are within driving range in Salt Lake City, which is also super cool because they are like nationally known in the rail fanning world as being scenic and also really challenging, at least for the railroads to operate. So pretty cool stuff, around here.
Also,
Coolest thing.
Also, by the way, show the picture I saw on Discord. By the way, just right now, I'm trying to get a concept of the idea I'm having right here. The fur coat, the cane, and the bear on the chain. Are you showing it? By the way,
Yeah, I'm showing it.
That does not look like me at all. By the way, I said make it look like me. That does not look like me at all, not even remotely. So I'm not sure if Grok knows what I'm looking like here, but that is not me. But that's the concept, at least. Also, the cowboy hat does not fit with the fur coat and the cane. That was also a bad choice by Grok too. But that's the bear on the chain right there, though. Like literally.
Man, why does that bear look like it's getting abused?
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing the bear like that. I'll be having it with a nice, like, a luxurious chain and stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about? A little bit of bear food on the side and stuff. And yeah, and honestly, that's not a very good AI generated picture there, but it gets the point across.
No, not really. And also, I wouldn't go around in the woods like that because I'm pretty sure a hunter would probably shoot you and think you were a bear yourself because of that fur, man. I mean, like, honestly, that would be pretty sketch. That would be pretty dangerous, really. But anyways, with that very interesting sort of a look into what Matthew's style is. I didn't know he was real like that with the fur coat and the cowboy hat and everything, and then the bear on the chain. Matthew, there's this really interesting group of people out there, man. They're called Russians. They do the bear on the chain deal a lot. You ought to look into them sometime.
Honestly, man. Like, you gotta admit though, that would be dripped out to have like the bear, like walking the bear and stuff like that with the fur coat. That would be pretty dripped out.
Dude,
I think people might call him a douchebag, but I mean, at least the style's on point.
Man, I'm not gonna lie, man. I would never have a bear on a chain because that's like having a chimpanzee in a cage in your house, man. That thing's gonna eventually like rip your face off or maul you or something like that. Like I just wouldn't want to run the risk of the collateral there, you know?
And also, what's the point even having a bear on the chain? Because it's not like a human's gonna be able to hold a bear back. So it's like, what goes the chain? Like it's just for the appearance of it. Like oh look, I have control over this bear. But it's like if that bear decided to like bolt, I'm like you're finished. Like you're getting dragged down the like mountain with the bear. That thing's gonna take you out.
Man, that bear, like when that thing's on the chain, you don't have the bear on the chain. The bear has you on the chain. Like that thing's in control. It's only an illusion that you're in charge and not the bear.
Man, honestly though, if you ever catch me like in the Wasatch Forest or something like that, having to fight the bear, help the bear.
But man, like the only bears that you'd ever run into out there are like the little black bears, like the smallest ones out there. Those are the only ones that are left. All the grizzlies are gone, and all of the brown bears are gone too. So it's just the black bears that are left, and they are quite small, like compared to other bears. So let me show y'all here the American black bear, or this really chunky one here.
I think you can domesticate those.
Let's see. Let me see if I can find one standing near to a person. There's got to be a picture where they show the relative scale of these bears. Oh, that guy hunted one. That's kind of how big they get.
Oh, that's messed up. Come on, man. Like you don't have to hunt the bear. Come on now.
It's kind of like the size of like a large dog though. That's like about how big most black bears get. Like they can get a little bit bigger than that, but not by much. So like it's not like a huge formidable thing. Like you could scare one off pretty easy. These are also quite skittish.
Yeah, it's kind of something there. It's just that you got a little small window of time that the bear is a cub, and then once it gets to this size right here, then the whole equation changes. Then all of a sudden, the bear is running you instead of you running the bear. Oh, look at him. That's what's wild about these bears. They always try to lure people in, like waving and stuff like that, and like being all friendly and stuff. But these things aren't like really friendly. It's like that. If you went up to that thing, it would probably get you.
Yeah, I think this thing will rip someone apart. But that also, by the way, that's the scale of a black bear by a person. So I'd honestly say, man, that's like German Shepherd sized.
Yeah, kind of a little bit, but like a lot more weight.
Yeah, much heavier than a German Shepherd, but at the same time, in size, like height and length and everything, about the same size as a pretty big German Shepherd. And look at this one, man, munching on a watermelon. That one looks like it's vibing.
Yeah, that's a crazy deal.
I'm not gonna lie, folks. Black bears look pretty chill. Huh?
What's wrong with that one in the middle? Is that fake?
Oh, that's a cub.
Huh, that's a scrawny looking thing right there. That poor thing needs some.
Oh my god, a skinwalker, man! He can't walk on two legs, man.
that thing stood up and said, "Oh, for real, for real."
Man, this one said, excuse me, does that have quinoa in it? Like, bro, it's like, yo, get the hell out of here, you damn domesticated
is that
creature.
gluten free? Is it gluten free?
Bro, this one's walking in. I'd like to talk to your manager. Like, bro, it's like, get the hell out of here, you crazy bear. But man, I'm telling you, let's like, why does this one look like it's had a hard day at work?
That poor thing has hit hard times. That's how most people feel in the economy.
Man, real like that's real right there. This one's about to throw hands. This one I think. Oh, this one's just kind of hanging out. Let's see. That one looks quite happy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's happy in the water. I didn't think it would be.
Man, apparently that one likes a shower every once in a while. I heard these things reek. So I wouldn't want to get close to one.
Look at that goofy one over there on the left. Man, honestly, that looks like it might be a chill one. Like, but now that you see it like a little up close, like it seemed like it might be a chill one right here. It's laughing. But I'm sure if you can see the bottom of the picture, it's probably got a guy pinned down the ground or something like that going.
But dude, this isn't even an American one. This is an Asiatic black bear. This is a totally different species. Man, this is the one that was like roughing up people in Hokkaido that the army had to go out and deal with.
That demented bear, the type that gets joy off of pinning people down and stuff like that. Like, look at him, he's being demented right there, laughing at them.
Bro, this one said, I walked up in a ramen shop, I messed they shit up. And then went wandering back off in the woods. That's this one. But let's see. Oh, they look cute. Like, they look cute, like you'd want to pet them. But if you try and pet them, they're gonna kill you. So, like, it's kind of a catch-22 with that whole ordeal. But they do.
I bet you that if you wanted to like, now obviously don't go near bears. Like I want to say that because I don't want to like advocate for people to go like see bears and stuff like that. But if you probably encountered one of these things and you just like tried to show no fear, because obviously when you show fear, these animals can pick up on it like really quickly, and that changes the whole situation really fast. But if you were able to somehow repress that and try to stay calm around the bear, and you might be able to just like maybe walk past it or something. Hopefully, I never have to test that out. But these things could rip you apart. Like seeing how large these things are, these things right here could just rip somebody to shreds.
Man, you know the one bear I would never mess with in my life is a grizzly bear. Those do look very scary. Like honestly, would not touch
Yeah,
them.
an arm is like beef jerky to this.
Man, look at that face and tell me that it would ever have empathy. No, like it did never.
Arms coming off, legs shredded.
Man,
Head is snack.
folks, if you ever go up to a grizzly bear and you're goofy enough that when it's in the middle of gaming to take away its PS5, you are going to end up with that.
Man, that thing right there is crazy.
Man, so it went. Man, it's like yeah, it's like you run for your life. This thing's killing everyone in the area. Like, dude, that is the cocaine bear, man. The infamous cocaine bear right there. I think that's what it probably looked like after it like had all 300 like bits of cocaine. Did you ever hear about that story, Matthew? There was a bear that ended up getting into like an illegal cocaine stash somewhere, and it was like 300 like hits of cocaine that it got, and it just went crazy. Like, I think they shot the thing low because it was chasing down an ambulance and all sorts of other stuff. Like, it was a crazy story. Like, if I remember the story of the cocaine bear correctly, like it was
chasing
wild.
down an ambulance.
Well, let me go pull up the story of the cocaine bear. I got to get the story correct here, folks. Like, I can't just leave this in like half-assed a story. So let's see. Oh, here we are. There was a movie actually made on this in 2023. I didn't know. So let's see here. I want to find the true story of the cocaine bear. Let me.
What is it, like fake versions of the story running around out there?
Well, the movie's based on the real story, but I don't want the movie plot. I want the real story. So, here we are. The cocaine bear. Oh my goodness. They have it taxidermied. This is the cocaine bear taxidermied in
Oh my God, it looks zooted.
Okay, so let's go through this. Also, why is it wearing a pimp named Schlickback hat? Like, why is it just kind of chill like that? But anyways, it's also known as Pablo Escobar.
Somebody said K for cocaine.
Oh, man. Or Cokie the bear.
Oh my God.
Oh man. So here's the story. In 1985, a narcotics officer turned drug smuggler was trafficking cocaine into the United States. Well, he got a look in on the business and decided to become a part of it. When they said say no to drugs, he said yes. But apparently, after dropping off a shipment in Blairsville, Georgia. Oh, so this happened in our neck of the woods, dude. This was in the Southeast. I didn't know that. Thornton and an accomplice, Bill Leonard, departed in a Cessna 404, and they dropped a load of 40 plastic containers of cocaine into the wilderness before abandoning the plane above Knoxville, Tennessee. Allegedly, Thornton was killed when his parachute failed to open. On the 23rd of December, they found a dead black bear that had eaten a large amount of cocaine from the jettisoned containers and suffered from a drug overdose. The container,
Damn it, OD.
Yeah, the container held about 75 pounds of cocaine. So this bear had like 75 pounds of coke in it when it died, valued at $20 million. And by the time the scene was studied by government authorities, all the containers had been ripped open or their contents scattered by this bear. The chief medical examiner from the Georgia State Crime Lab stated that the stomach was literally packed to the brim with cocaine, although he estimated she had absorbed only 3 to 4 grams into her bloodstream at the time of her death. Dr. Alonso, who was the doctor on scene who examined the bear, didn't want to waste the body, so he had the bear taxidermied and gave it to the Chattahoochee River National Recreational Area. The bear, however, disappeared until it emerged again in a pawn shop, one of those like legendary pawn store like deals, sort of a deal.
The what?
Like a Pawn Star deal, you know, like the ones you would see on the show. Like, I mean, dude, come on, man. Get your mind out of the gutter.
I don't know what the hell you just said it the first time. That
What
sounded
the
like something
hell
totally
are you
different from my headphones.
talking? Eventually, she made her way to the Kentucky Fun Mall in Lexington, Kentucky, where she remains to this day. It has been alleged that the bear kept in Lexington is not the same bear that died in Georgia, but rather another, unrelated bear, due to the fact that the original bear was in a state of decomposition, although the mall maintains that the bear is original. So apparently the whole story that I heard about it chasing down an ambulance wasn't real. I guess they did that in the movie, though. Because I heard from someone somewhere that this thing had chased down an ambulance at some point. Apparently, it just ripped open a whole bunch of containers of coke and ate it until it died. So, kind of a little crazy. Like the real story is very mundane. But still, this is a real thing that happened to a black bear in Kentucky or Georgia. I mean, sorry.
Damn, that's crazy right there. So they literally called the bear Pablo Escobar. Like that's honestly pretty hardcore. Although I don't think Pablo was known for using his products. I don't think he was. I think he was selling it. So that's kind of odd. They called the bear Pablo Escobar because it's not like the bear was trafficking. The bear was a victim.
Oh, we have a list of individual bears. So we have the doxing list for every bear in the world. Bart the Bear 2, Gentle Ben, or I'm sorry, Bonkers. What a 650-pound American black bear. Oh, it's this chunky little. Oh, wait a minute, is that the one? It might be.
That is the one.
I think that is the one. That thing looks like it'd be 650 pounds. Brody, Bruno, Hercules, Brutus, Rocky, Teddy, and Whopper. Whopper is a Kodiak bear, by the way.
It can be found in Burger King on the weekends.
Man, bro, this thing be hanging out. Hotfoot, Joa, Touchdown. This one was a mascot of a football team. Bruno 2, Rocky again. What? Wait a minute. Rocky had a purple heart? What the hell? Oh, wait a minute, hold up. A female Asian black bear was purchased as a cub for about $111 by the 187th Regimental Combat Team from a zoo in Kumamoto, Japan, where they were stationed during the war in Korea. The bear made 5 parachute jumps, which allowed her to qualify as a paratrooper, and received a Purple Heart after being injured by shell fragments under artillery fire. And then she was sent to the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago, which was probably more dangerous than being in Korea. Moving on from that.
Wojak.
Wojtek. You know Wojtek the bear from Poland?
Are you sure it doesn't say Wojak?
No, that's Wojtek. Wojtek the
Okay.
bear. See? Wojtek.
Oh. Yeah.
That's the Polish war bear. And then Winnipeg is apparently the bear that inspired the story of Winnie the Pooh. Huh, that's cool. I didn't know that. But anyways, enough of the bears, folks. We got it. We got a lot more questions to go. This was a very interesting rabbit hole, though. So with that, we are on to the next one.
And with that, folks, it's now time to move on to our next one here, which goes to Poco Loco. And Poco Loco puts in a $20 support. And thank you very much, good sir, Mr. Poco, for that $20 support and helping to keep the channel running. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I thank you massively for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. It is folks like you who help to make this channel possible and help us to make it a reality. And we thank you massively for that support and helping this channel to keep on rolling. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Old Warrior Fella, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Old Warrior, as well, for that support. He said that the reason that Russia and now the U.S. are in such a hurry to get Ukraine to surrender is that the Russian central bank found some 10 trillion rubles in bad debt. And that is like 2 times Russia's entire annual budget. Russia is broke.
Interesting. I haven't heard about that. I'll have to look into that. But they are in bad financial straits right now for sure. But also, on top of that, that's really more so a reason to let the war keep going because we hold the cards. If we don't negotiate a peace with them, they just go broke. And then the war ends anyways with us winning. So it's really more so up to them to meet us at the middle, or they can destroy themselves from their own stupidity. And that's how the U.S. administration ought to be looking at it. I don't know why they're not. But a big thanks to you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Jocelyn White. And that's Josh who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Josh, as well, for that support. And Josh said, thanks to all those who support the enforcers. And Enforcer Matt, thank you. And take a question from the chat.
Hey, and a big thanks to you for the kind words, and also a big thanks to everyone who does support the channel to help us to keep this thing rolling. Y'all help us to make this thing possible every night, and I say that a million times to the point it's probably just like background noise when I say it, but it's true. If it wasn't for viewer support, we would have never been able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't have been able to make it possible even tonight. It's folks who go out of their way to support this channel that make it possible, not just for us to be on air, but for everyone to have a show every single night. It's basically like the Forest Service's access fee, but well, it's not mandatory here, it's voluntary, and we greatly appreciate the folks like you who voluntarily support this channel and help us to keep this thing on air. And so with that, a huge thanks to you once again, and we will make sure to take one from the chat.
All right, so the question from the chat in honor of Josh is going to go to none other than San Vaughn, who said, Matt, check out Clark's Bears in Lincoln, New Hampshire, I think. What is this, by the way? Whoa, come on, man. What is it? What is it? I want to see it. Oh,
It's the Bears on Chains.
oh man, I hate that. Like, I will say this, like, I'm personally an animal lover. I love animals like dogs and things like that. I don't like to see animals like caged up. Are they putting the poor thing through like the circus tricks and stuff? Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, they're doing that to the poor bear.
Man, poor bears. Honestly, let the bears be free.
Man, honestly, bears are chill. Why do them like that? Let them do their own thing. You know, I'll be honest with y'all, I'm just not really one for like performative animals at all. I actually find that stuff to be pretty I don't want to say barbaric, but just very unentertaining because, you know, these are wild animals. They're not domesticated. A dog would be fine doing tricks because it's a domesticated animal and that's what they like to do. But bears don't like that. No matter how much you try and get them to like it, they'll never like it. I'd just rather have an idea that this thing's out in the wilderness somewhere, like here at the Wasatch Front or in the Appalachians, and left alone. Because that's where they're best off, is in their own habitat. But, you know, it appears that that's not the case here. Oh my god, they got a Heisler? Oh my god, dude, that's freaking crazy. That's nuts. They have that's actually a well-conditioned one, too. Anyways, I'm going to start rabbit holing on that. Well, this park isn't too bad. I mean, you know, like, yeah, sure, they're doing that with the bears, but...
Oh, man, you sold the bears out for one train.
I mean, yeah, I'm just kidding, by the way. This is still not really the greatest thing. You know, it's kind of like the orcas at SeaWorld, you know? Like, it's the same sort of a thing. It's better to leave them off in the wild and let them live naturally as nature intends. But anyway,
yeah, it's like if people want to go see these animals, it's like then you know, save all the money and go see the animal in its habitat. Like, don't displace the animal from its place where it lives, so that way you can spend less money to go see it like down the street. It's like that's pretty messed up. It's like I just don't get it. Like, I don't like that. I joke about like the bear on the chain and stuff like that, but in reality though, I'm like, you know, let the animals be wild and stuff, and just go see them where they live instead, if you want to.
Yeah, you know, it's like let's see. And also, I see some people talking about how easy it is to domesticate bears. I just don't like it. It feels unnatural, you know? Like, domesticated dogs, cats, and other animals that are domesticated, they went through thousands of years of domestication. Cattle, pigs, dogs, and so on, they couldn't even survive in the wild. They die. They have absolutely no survival abilities in the wilderness, for the large part. These animals do. And that's what makes it unnatural, is that we're taking these animals that live these tough lives in the wild, and they truly are acclimated to those sorts of conditions, and then we make them do goofy little tricks. And I just don't really know. I just don't like that stuff myself personally. I just feel like it's very like, and generally animals have no concept of respect, but it's very demeaning to the animals, and also it just seems quite unnatural, honestly, to me. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here is going to go to none other than Richard Hawkins, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Richard, for that $20 support as well, and also helping to keep the channel running. And while we're at it, a big shout out to Philip Lanebull, who also put in a 20 as well. And Richard and Philip did not put in comments. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep running. Because if it wasn't for folks like y'all, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible and keep it running. And so humongous thanks to you so much once again. I hope that has addressed that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Mr. Lunchtime, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Mr. Lunchtime, for that support. He said, great work, my friends. And take a question from the chat and stay toasty, my friends.
And thank you so much for the support. We will stay toasty. It's crazy, Matthew, out here. The cost of electricity. It's insanely cheap actually compared to what Alabama was. Because I got my electrical bill, folks, a couple of days back, and it was like absurdly cheap. I was like, wow, this is crazy. The utilities out here cost like practically nothing. But that's just what I experienced. Anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Robert Krogan, who puts in a 10. And Robert said, "Good evening, LSA, and here's to the chicken and 180s."
And thank you so much for the chickens. We love the chickens, the Costco $5 chickens. Now, that's a domesticated bird I can get behind. Like, beyond that, a huge thanks to you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible and keep it running. And also, I see some people talking about, and yeah, that's true. I would like when I said domesticated dogs and cats and such, and pigs, they can't even live in the wild. Pigs actually revert back to boars when they live in the wild. So yeah, they actually can. I was wrong on that. And the dogs generally can too, because stray dogs do live in packs. They generally form pretty much like what would be equivalent to a wolf pack if they were wolves, but they're not. But they kind of create that whenever they're out, pretty much without any supervision or human interaction. And cats can survive too. It's just that they're not really like ideally suited. Like, dogs actually have shorter snouts because of domestication. For some reason, when animals start to become domesticated, ones that have snouts, their snouts start to shrink in size. So it makes it a lot harder to be the kind of carnivorous hunters that they were in the past, because their snouts are a bit shorter and also don't have the same kind of bite force that they would have had. So dogs don't really make the most ideal animals in the wild. Wolves are the epitome of the peak for a wild dog, but generally domesticated dogs just don't really do good at it. They can survive. I am mistaken in saying that they couldn't, but still not really the greatest thing. And also, I would hate to think, because when I think about that, I think of little Mosul Warg becoming a wild dog, and I don't think Mosul Warg would make it. He would get the croups or something, and then he'd feel sick and he'd want to come home. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Fog37, also known as Bobo Uzala. And he puts in a $10 support. And thank you very much, Bobo, for that support once again. And he said, just because, and LSA.
And thank you so much for the support, just cause. Because you help us to say, long live the Lee Spring Army, and the Lee Spring Army will never die. And so with that, a big thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here is going to go to none other than, guess who? It is T50's Louder, who puts in a 10 and said legends.
And thank you so much for the support. And thank you for calling us legends. I'd say that the Lee Spring Army is more so the legend here. And I got to thank you incredibly for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And we also have a $10 support from Big Ron. And Big Ron, he said, am I mistaken, but didn't Poland shoot down a Russian drone back on September the 10th?
I would have to go back and look at the map. I don't really remember them confirming that they shot down drones. I remember that the drone incursions happened, and they never reported any of them were being shot down. That's at least what I remember. We never saw debris that would be indicative of them being shot down either. All the drones were generally found intact, for the most part, on their territory. So I'd have to go back and double check, but from what I would recall and remember, the Netherlands appears to be the first to actively engage them, because the Poles, like many other countries, have been saying that they will shoot them down, and then they don't. And we've been talking about that for a while and saying, why don't they? So generally, from what I would remember off of what we've been saying over the past few months, and generally what I remember, I just don't really remember them ever shooting down a drone over their airspace. So with that, I hope that does address that the best that we can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, I don't mean to rabbit hole in this, but a breed of dog that would do well if you let it loose into the wild, at least I would think it would do well, is a cane corso. Have you ever seen that, by the way?
Bruh, those things are devil dogs, honestly, man. Like,
Pull up a picture of that thing. Pull up a picture of that thing. It's like if Satan had a dog, it would be a cane corso. This thing is like, there it is right there. There's some real vicious looking ones too. Like there's some of these things that look like they're straight killers, like these things right here. They're also, I've never really seen one, like in real life. I've never seen one of these things right here, but that's like way more intimidating than a pit bull. That thing looks like it's got some muscle behind it.
Man, this thing is quite scary. You know another one, man, that I think would survive quite well in the wild is the borzoi. Do it for you, man. Like, look at that thing.
Aren't these the ones that like grab stuff by the neck and go "Rawr," and like finish it off? Like this is the snout it's got.
This thing is actually the bear hunter.
Oh, it hunted the bears.
I think if I remember correctly, it does. Let me check that. Let me check that here. Let me borzoi. What was the original? Yeah, it is a hunting dog, and it was used in wolf hunting. Actually, sorry, correction, not bear hunting.
Oh, it's
it was
Russian.
wolf hunting. Yeah.
Oh.
So when it's running down the animals, suka, it's just like it's like.
Man, a little spy dog right here.
And let's see, there's another one, like a Caucasian shepherd dog. Dude, I think this thing would do quite well in the wild just because of their sheer size.
Honestly, it would. I think it would personally. Let's see here. You know another dog that is quite interesting right here?
What?
Tibetan Mastiff. Big dog.
Tibetan Mastiff.
Look at that. That's a dog. That's a dog. That is a dog.
Oh, dang. That one's angry.
Oh, wow. Yeah, see, these things are vicious right here.
But they do look quite cute, though, when they're not being vicious. I mean, look at that. That's a cute little face right there. Give it lots of petting. But
That reminds me of that little dog that carries a little barrel. You know that one I'm talking about that carries the barrel like on the collar and stuff like that? Like, what's that dog called? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about, man, but I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. They slobber a
Like,
lot.
yeah, they slobber a lot, and they're like known to like be in colder environments and stuff like that, and they're like known as like helper dogs and stuff like that, like in Arctic environments. I can't remember the name of the dog though. It's the one with the barrel. Somebody's got to say the name of it.
The Saint Bernard! The Saint
Yeah,
Bernard!
that's it. Saint Bernard. Everybody's saying it now.
Here it is. This one.
Yeah, that's it right there. Pull up the one with the barrel though. Like that's the one I always know about. Like Saint Bernard with the little barrel like on the collar and stuff like that.
Let's see here. Let's find it. Oh, here's one. It's a taxidermy. Wait a minute. These things look totally different in the 1920s.
Yeah, it kind of does. I want to see one that would like the real barrel and the fur.
Let's see here.
There's
Oh, here
kind
it
of one
is.
right there. Somewhat.
Man, with the barrel. Like, it's got the barrel. Man, let's see. Man, Saint Bernards are cool though. Let's see. With
What about those?
barrel.
Let's see. Oh yeah, there it is. That's what I'm thinking about right there. The ones with the little barrel right there, carrying around a little stuff. But also, what about a Doberman? You know, the classic Doberman pinscher. That's a little sleek, aggressive dog right there.
Man, Dobermans are pretty neat to me. I think they're like interesting dogs.
Yeah, they're interesting. It's just that they don't really have like good fur. Like they just really have like a sleek coat. It's not really fur. like I prefer dogs with a fluffy coat, not too fluffy though, like where they can't handle heat. But there's like no real fluff to this dog right here.
Yeah, let's see. I see some people saying, check out the Richard Manierin said, check out the Spitfire Whippet dog. Let's check that out. That sounds like something that like a British gangster would have, like a pocket dog. Get him, Spitfire, and then it like yanks someone's wrist off or something. Let's take a look. Holy moly! So that's one of those
What is
racing
this?
dogs. It's a Spitfire Whippet.
That thing looks kind of a little bit malnutrition.
I've seen one of
I
these.
don't like
before.
that little thing's a little off.
Man, this one has seen the fires of hell. Like this one, man, it's like, man, oh my god, like,
Michael Jackson looking dog.
dude, why do they all look like they have been at the Battle of Iwo Jima and come back alive? Like, why do they all look like that? They look traumatized.
It's about to go.
Man, this thing's about to go. Good morning, man. Like,
I don't know why.
Oh my
It's like I can imagine it saying like Michael Jackson phrases for some reason.
man, let's see. Northern said the Borable. I don't know how to pronounce that, but we'll take a look at it. Oh, this one's kind of cute.
Yeah, it's kind of looks like a different dog, like a little bit. Like
It's kind of like a
not
Saint
sure which
Bernard,
one.
but like a golden retriever mixed with it too, like with a fur color.
Now let me show you another one. Like I want to get back to these like rough ones, like these ones that are like, whoa, look at that. Doggo Dogo Argentino.
Is that real?
Yeah, but not two G's, just one. There you go.
Oh,
Look at that thing right there. That thing will fix you up.
uh, man,
Doggo
this one,
Argentino.
man, this one says, "Me encanta de muertes." Man, it's like, yo,
I
get
think
that thing
said,
away from me, man.
I think said, I heard you like Argentinian beef. I heard you're gonna buy 50 pounds of it.
Man, this one's about to say, "Whoa, look at that boiler." Man. Oh my god. Man, what's another interesting one? The Akitas. I saw someone bring up the Akita. The Akita is a great standard. There's the Shiba Inu, and then there's the Akita for scale. The Shiba Inu is a very interesting dog. People say it's more so like a cat behaviorally than a dog, but the Akita is a real dog. Now, the Akita actually is the dog that was bred to hunt bears in Japan.
Yeah, that's quite interesting with that right there. Let's see here. I'm trying to pick out another one, by the way. I'm trying to find the most aggressive, the scariest looking dogs. I think the Cane Corso is the most scary of the bunch, but some of these people's list of scary dogs is not scary in my book. Like a German Shepherd is not scary.
We had German
Let's
Shepherds.
see.
They're actually pretty chill. They're very duty-oriented dogs, and unfortunately for that reason, they don't have a great deal of personality.
You know the wolf hybrid. You know those type dogs. Have you ever seen like a wolf hybrid?
Yes, I have. I've seen the wolf hybrid dogs. They're pretty cool. I like the wolf hybrid dogs because they look like wolves, like this one.
Are those illegal?
In some places they are actually.
Yeah, I think those I've never really seen one in real life, but the hybrid wolf dog, like those are intriguing to me. But I don't want to end up like one of these people on like Fatal Attractions or something like that that has like a wolf dog or something like that, and then they're like, one day the wolf dog simply had enough and bit his face off or something like that. It's like it seems like it would end up like that, but they look neat.
You know, it's really crazy though. Let me show y'all this. The timber wolf is really what most dogs come from. And the timber wolves are ginormous. This is let me see here if I can get a good picture of a timber wolf by someone for y'all. This is about the average size of a timber wolf compared to a person. I mean, timber wolves are unbelievably large, and they always roam in herds. Well, more so packs, wolf packs. So you never run up on just one, you run up on multiples of these, and they're massive. You know, absolutely ginormous. Most domesticated breeds, because of the whole domestication syndrome, their snouts get smaller, and they also become fairly smaller as an animal. Because a lot of the additional muscle and abilities aren't really necessarily needed as a domesticated species. So when they breed, they generally start to have traits over time that exhibit some form of domestication. But timberwolves are truly a crazy sort of an animal. I will say this though, I think timberwolves are absolutely gorgeous animals. I mean, that is a beautiful
Yeah,
looking dog.
I like that. It looks almost like a coyote a little bit. But also, have you ever seen the Goldong?
How do you spell that before I type in something and get a bad search result here?
Gull. I mean, you might want to pull this up on the side screen, by the way. It's a real dog,
Oh,
but
here it
just
is.
oh, there we go. Okay,
Oh,
thank
that was
God
like
you pointed
roulette.
that
Honestly,
out.
I shouldn't have done that. Like, oh, man. Uh,
Gold Dong. I've never even heard of this dog until now.
who
What
brought
hate
it
to be
up?
called that? Say what?
Who brought this up in the chat?
I saw it on the list.
Oh, but someone said check out the direwolf. Man, honestly,
I
man,
saw it on my. You don't want to be found on a list. By the way,
what?
I said you don't want to be found on a list. By the way, I said I found him on a list.
Man, honestly, man, honestly, folks, I just played Russian roulette because the search results on that could have been nasty, and I, for some reason, just didn't do it off screen. I did it on screen. So, honestly, and now I'm having an adrenaline crash after that because I just realized how dangerous that could have been. But, anyways, direwolves are pretty interesting. I like that
Well,
one.
yeah, I don't know about those. That one with the tongue hanging out looked a little bit wild.
That one's cool.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I'm trying to see if I can find this. Uh, oh wait, hang on. Apparently, the direwolf thing is like a Game of Thrones thing. I'm guessing, so it's kind of like a
Oh,
domesticated
it's
wolf.
phony.
I guess. I like. Oh, this is a project to try and bring around. Okay, so it's not a real thing. So let's see. Someone said a husky. We had a Siberian husky once when we were children. Our mom had one, and it was a solid white husky. Um, and it was just like this one. But and also ours also had the two blue eyes. It's actually kind of rare. Usually they have miscolored let's see, what do they call them? Retinas. So one of them will be brown and one will be blue. But our husky looked just like this. Killed everything in the surrounding area in our hometown. But
Also, by the way, before we get too deep into the rabbit hole right here, one last dog I want to like show everybody. But first of all, I want to ask you. Let's see if you know this. What dog has a jaw strength that's stronger than that of a lion? Do you know what dog breed that is?
oh, I wouldn't even know actually.
The Kangal. I think is how you say it. Pull that one up real quick. That thing's got a jaw strength stronger than a lion.
Oh, looks cool.
Yeah, that.
I like that dog.
That thing can bite anything. Like if it bites, you're done if it bites you.
Man, dude, imagine the police having a Kangol, man, send out the Kangol. Bro, it's like, dude, that guy's losing limbs. That's crazy. But do lions have strong bite forces though? That's the question. How strong is a lion's bite? Between 650 and 1,000 pounds per square inch. How the bite force of a timber wolf? So around 400 psi. So that's actually kind of
The
on up
Kangal,
there.
the Kangal's around 650.
Huh. So a lion can actually have a bite force between 650 and 1,000 pounds. So if it's like a weak lion with like a weak jaw, then it would be as strong. But if it's a strong lion with a strong jaw, then it wouldn't be close.
Weak lion.
Man, bro, that lion said, "Man, I haven't been working out my mouth." Man, like it's like, bro, you dying today? You ain't eating. But how much? What is a tiger's bite force? Like a Bengal tiger. I wonder if we can get that. Damn, 1,000 to
That's a lot.
1,050. Let's see.
I bet a hippo's got the strongest bite.
Strongest bite force is an orca whale at 19,000 psi.
Oh dang.
Oh my god. So if you ever like get grabbed by an orca, you will literally just be crushed into two pieces. Good lord, that is actually insane. Let's see. But apparently the saltwater crocodile is the only one that's been measured to have a high PSI. They suggest that the orca might have a bite force around 19,000, but the saltwater crocodile has the highest measured one at 3,700 pounds per square inch. So that is about 3 of the strongest adult male lions in bite force in one mouth in a crocodile. So that's actually crazy, the bite force there.
Also, by the way, have you ever seen the F-type jaguar?
Now I've heard that those things have been roaming around in the Bengali forest. Like, let's see. Let's take a look at those. Ah, yes. These are beautiful, really.
Wait a minute, be honest. Did you know it was the car before you clicked it?
Yeah, I did, because there's no such thing as an F-type animal. like, man, who the hell would call it? Yes, that's the old F-type jaguar there running through the woods. Like, nah, man, no one's gonna ever say that.
I was just wondering. I was wondering if you're trying to play it off or something. But yeah, there's the Jaguar right there. Poor old Jaguar. This whole brand basically went extinct once it got taken over. This poor old brand is tough now.
Ooh. Oh,
Yeah, look at that. Poor old brand went extinct like the dodo.
Man, yes, I'd love to drive around the cube, please. Hold the render. Like, I just want the unrendered product. Oh my god, that is so terrible. It just makes
I want
me
to ride in
sick.
that pink look. I want to ride in that pink looking hearse. Can I get the Frankenstein girl special?
Bro, I want that. Man, I want that big forehead ass, big looking car head ass. Man, like, I want that thing right now. And I want to drive it around the city. I want to whip up to Starbucks and order the pink drink out of this stupid ass looking thing. And maybe get a spring fling from Swig too, all in one go. That really will complete this deal. Maybe even Hot Dog Man will do a romp in the woods for one of these. Like, man, like, honestly, oh my god, I don't think they could give these away. Man, this is a rough car. Like, this is a rough car.
I'm not even sure if it's real. I'm not even sure if it went into production or not.
I think they probably canceled production, I'd assume. But there's a picture up here of a guy. No way! No way! So there was a real one. There was a real one out there somewhere.
That's crazy. That's crazy work, honestly. I'm not even sure. That thing's got such a low splitter on the front of it. It probably couldn't even make it over a speed bump hardly. Like, that's extremely low.
Oh, man. What's another car company that killed their brand recently? There was another one.
Well, you know, a lot of the British car manufacturers are being bought out by like an Indian conglomerate, so they're sort of like changing the design to not be super great, at least in my opinion. So, um, uh, I mean, Saab went out of business a long time ago. The car industry did, but Jaguar is really the only brand I've seen implode really badly. They like Jaguar just went really bad.
And then they also got rid of their cool logo and they put it in Comic Sans without the Jaguar. Like, who came up with that? Like, who in the world said, yes, this is how we're going to appeal to the market. We're going to put our cool ass font, our cool logo in Comic Sans. That's really going to get people riled up to buy a car. And then we're also going to put it on this stupid looking thing.
That's just so hearse looking.
Dude,
Look at the back of it. It's
Dude,
like a,
they
it's
have
like
they have a
industrial
jet
grade air conditioner.
They have a jet turbine vent that you'd find on a damn T80 back here. Like, look, let's see, T80 rear view. Yeah, here we go. They got the same vent for the jet turbine on the T80 on this thing, bro.
Man, oh my God, that's terrible. That is terrible. It's like literally like the vent for like an industrial grade air conditioner in the back of it. What kind of air conditioning is this thing got? Like Arctic freeze, like AC built into it or something?
Bro, this is a nitrogen freezer. Man, you get in the car and you're frozen solid in less than 10 seconds. Oh my
Maybe
God.
that's for the maybe for the bodies, like, you know, since it's a hearse, like trying to make sure the bodies stay chilled.
Oh my God, dude. Oh man, type 00 negative. That's exactly what I'm
Is that
saying.
like a
That's
blood type?
that's what their profits are going to be. They're going to be type 00 negative. Bro.
This man right here is being transported in this hearse had a type 00 negative blood before he got taken down.
Also, by the way, folks, to make this even better, they only provided, from what I can tell from what we're looking around, in two colors, boy blue or girl pink. So that's your only options. You only get to drive this thing around in spring fling pink and baby boy blue. So you only get those two options, and there's no other ones at this point. Jesus, dude.
How much is it?
Bro.
Is there a price on it?
I don't know, but dude, that slogan on the wall right there, man, that's what every single company said after they watched Jaguar do this. They said, copy nothing. Like, do not touch this idea.
They did not cook the way they thought they were cooking. I can tell you that. Trust me, nobody's going to copy. You didn't have to tell anybody that. Like, trust me, nobody's going to take that. But let's see. It's so according to the Google AI estimate, this is and take this with a grain of salt. This is Google AI saying it, but it says the price for the upcoming Jaguar Type 00 or 00 or whatever will start around 130,000.
Oh hell no!
Oh my God! Like, what the hell? Like, let's see. Yeah, it looks like it maybe is around that price right there. Also, it says November 4th, ultra luxury. I wouldn't go that far, but ultra luxury Jaguar Type 0 production car delayed. I wonder why. Damn.
Also, their ad didn't really do a lot because, like, I don't know why in the world they made it look like we live in District 1 in Panem in the Hunger Games, and that's the people who are going to be driving this car. Because who in the hell comes out of their house and goes, yes, I'm going to shear a sheep, dye the wool blue, and then wrap it around my ankles and walk out of the house? Like, who the hell would ever do that? And have a whack-ass haircut like that. The hair is whack, the shoes are whack, the fit's whack. Like, no one's going to drive around a car or even walk. I wouldn't be found dead dressed up like this. This is just stupid. And like,
I
copy
don't know what
nothing.
the hell Jaguar was thinking. It's like Jaguar didn't know who they were selling to. Like, but the most people that bought Jaguars were usually people that were car enthusiasts because are really like a super mainstream brand in America. It was mainly really well known in the UK and other countries like that. So I'm like, they were selling cars to car enthusiasts. Like, they were making these interesting project cars and stuff like that. The F-Type, which was a car we just looked at a minute ago, was pretty popular, pretty cool car. It sounded pretty good too. And then they just wrecked it all and went berserk with this.
Also, man, why the hell does it look like everyone who was involved in this ad goes to their living pod and eats their supplement pill, like like their nourishment pill? Like they look like they live in a dystopia. Like it doesn't even look like anything that would be appealing.
Yeah, I'm not sure what was supposed to be appealing about this ad. To be honest, right here, it's a little bit wild.
You got the dude over here in the upper left from the movie 1984. He's about to get he's about to get tortured for reading Goldstein's book. Oh my god! And you got Tater Tot head back here with the tater tot gun. They went into the bar where they said, "What would you like?" They said, "I'd like to look like a tater tot from Sonic." They said, "Say no less." This guy here said, "I would like to blind people by the reflection off of my head. Get this shit polished." And they said, "Say no less." This person said, "I want my haircut to say that someone took a bite out of me," and they got that. And then everyone else is practically like bald around here, except for this one girl. And I don't know what's up with the red highlights. That's a like. I got to tell y'all, folks, this there's a lot to unpack here in this ad deal. Who the hell looks like this? There's nobody in the world who looks like this. What market share is this appealing to? Because literally nobody. Like, and some people in the chat are saying like it's a political thing. Like they're going, whoa. Nobody looks like that though. This is literally appealing to no market. Like nobody does.
Also, by the way, this headline right here, aged like milk, it said Jaguar rebrand watch genius, or it's absolute genius. I'm afraid not. It was definitely not. I can tell you that. So, I don't think Jaguar is doing too great right now.
No, they're not. They're not doing good at all. But anyways, enough of that. That T80 rear exhaust is what they put on the Jaguar. Oh my god. Anyways, folks, enough of that. We gotta straighten ourselves up here. Matthew, how many super chats do we have left?
We have 10.
Oh, that's not too bad. We can knock those out and hopefully get some live chats. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Live Laugh Toaster Bath, who puts in an 8. And thank you very much, Live Laugh Toaster, for that support. It said, good evening, Enforcers. And LSA, I'm glad I could catch a bit of the live today. And please take one from the chat and LLT, LSA.
And thank you so much for the support and help with this channel to keep on running. And of course, long live the Lee Spring Army. And it's great to have you here tonight. And we're happy to have you. And so a humongous thanks to you so much once again. I hope that has addressed that incredibly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Putin Puppet, who puts in a 6 and said, Grok here is correct, but for many other facts, they get manipulated by somebody else that's lurking in the background.
Yeah, I've heard about that and I've seen it and it's interesting, but on that one, it looks like it was correct. So that's a little interesting that I pointed it out. And so a big thanks to you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And also I see some people in the chat saying, "Oh no, that is woke." I mean, and also, by the way, folks, I'm not saying this politically. It's just a marketing thing because there's also, I don't know what to call the opposite direction, but there's also people who do marketing in the opposite direction of that completely. I don't, I suppose it is, but at the same time, there's nobody out there in the world that they're marketing to that actually looks and dresses like that. Like, nobody. It's like that's just so unrealistic. It's like I don't even know what they're going for. And someone said it was like a Back to the Future thing, like a sort of reference, but I don't even see that. I mean, like the people in like the futuristic version of Back to the Future didn't even look like that. So I just don't know what that was supposed to be. I don't know who in the world they're selling a car to at this point. It's like nobody on the planet looks like that. They look like they live in like the Mad Max world in the dwelling pod eating the nourishment pill. Like they don't even look like people. Like that we would know or recognize as like people in any subgroup culturally. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Uncovered Cube, who puts in a 5, who said LSA, and thank you very much, Uncovered Cube, for that support as well. And we also have a 5 from Jim Williams, who did not leave a comment. But thank you very much, Uncovered Cube, and Jim for that support. And Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you massively for support and help with this channel to keep on running. Because it is folks like you who help us to make this thing possible and keep it rolling. And we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Jay Dizzy, who puts in a 5. And Jay said, it's not much, but thank you for all that y'all do. And always great information and LSA.
Hey, and thank you so much for enjoying what we do. And long live the Lee Spring Army, and the Lee Spring Army will never die. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to the Wisdom to Know, who puts in a 5. And they said, is it possible that American leadership and negotiator are being influenced by CCP longevity industry that Xi and Putin averred to on open mic in September?
I would highly doubt it. I'm being very cute. So I highly doubt it. But you never know. I mean, people these days and their decision-making processes, it's so vain and it doesn't make any sense. But still, a big thanks to you so much for the support. And I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Octavian, and Octavian put in a 5, and thank you very much, good sir, as well, for that support. He said, I'm not even surprised. And also, he said he's not a big fan of Witkoff at all.
I'm generally not a big fan of Witkoff at all either, me personally. I don't think he's a great special envoy, to be entirely honest. I would wish that he would resign or be removed and be replaced at this point, because I'm not at all satisfied with what he is and what he does. But still, a big thanks to you for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Spartan, who puts in a 5. He said, we don't have the money to support Ukraine, but we have the money to build well, sadly, I can't read this one, Spartan. This one does get political right here, but I understand where you're coming from, though. But I would like to address it, but it does get political. But thank you very much once again, Spartan, for that support. And we also have a 5 from Spring Fauna, who said, what if there are top secret crafts that are to be made public for 20 years in the future, flown by robots that we created, and we're calling them UAPs?
It's possible. I mean, it's not out of question. The military makes all kinds of interesting technology, so really anything that you can imagine, they within reason, they're probably working on it right now and testing it out. So a big thanks to you once again for support and helping this channel to keep it running. I hope that does address that the best we can. But also to address Spartan's super chat, we can't really address that one, like at least that in, because it is political. But I will say this again: how in the world can we not come up with tens of billions of dollars for Ukraine, but we can always come up with tens of billions of dollars for Israel or side projects? Where in the world is if we're out of money, where is the money coming from to spontaneously throw at Israel or side projects? Clearly, that's showing that we're out of money is a lie. We have plenty of money, and we have plenty of money to throw around. And even still, if we only had, say, $30 billion to throw around the world, why in the world does Israel get $25 billion of that? Shouldn't we be cutting that down to like maybe $5 billion a year and then giving most of that to Ukraine and some of what's left to Taiwan? Shouldn't that be the way we would work it? I'd say that it'd make a lot more sense. I mean, because if we're wanting to balance the budget and not overspend, if we're giving $30 billion globally already, wouldn't it just make more sense that we balance the scales so that to where the situation that requires the most support is getting the most support, and the situation that's requiring the least support, which is the Israeli position right now, is getting the least, and Taiwan's getting something in between the middle, in between very little and a great deal. That's how I would work it. Or I would just work it to where the Israelis keep getting the same amount of money they're getting right now, and we just pour money into Ukraine like we should be. Not money, like not hard cash. I mean, material support is in weapons and such, but y'all get what I'm saying. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Greeskin, who puts in a 5. And they said, since we're on the hunt of Captain Crack Sparrow, also, by the way, what does this one mean before I read this one off? I don't want to get had.
And really quickly here, let me, let's see. Let me check that really quickly. I just want to make sure that one. Oh, that's an island, Matthew. It's an island. You can read it. It's safe. It's safe. It's okay.
Why don't you read it?
Greenskin asked, since we are all on the hunt for Captain Crack Sparrow, how is Tortuga doing these days, which is an island north of Haiti? And should we call the Strait of Hormuz Davy Jones Locker? And a big thanks to you for the support. And yeah, sure, we could call it Davy Jones Locker, the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, actually, that's up here. Oh, oopsie daisy. But yeah, we could call it that. And also, Tortuga, I don't know how Tortuga's doing these days. It's a part of Haiti, so it's probably not doing too well, because Haiti is a hellhole. Like, there's no way around that. I think everyone can agree on that. I mean, some guy tried to go down there and document what's going on. And he got held hostage by a guy named Barbecue, who's known for eating people. So not really the greatest place in the world at the moment. But I actually wouldn't be able to tell you how Tortuga's doing at the moment. But I'd assume not too well. Let's see if we can get a street view. We can't get a street view, but we can get this.
Oh, look, a bird's eye view from a bird.
Oh yeah, Tortuga. It's not looking like it's doing too well. Some houses have 4 walls and no roof. Some houses have no walls and no roof. Some of them have walls and a roof. But they look like they could go without them because they're about that bad off. So doesn't really look like Tortuga's doing too well, unfortunately. But it's Haiti, so it's it kind of runs in the country that everything there doesn't really do too well. But with that, I hope that addressed it well. And also, Erling Gruel is correct. Tortuga, it was a land of pirates at the time. Actually, as a matter of fact, there was a pirate bay. I forgot the name of it somewhere, but an earthquake wiped the whole thing out and pretty much killed everyone there. It was considered an act of God against the pirates, which was miraculous to the pirates and also everyone else in the world at the time. They're like, wow, the pirates just all got wiped out in an earthquake and tsunami all in one town at one time. They were like, that's crazy. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Reaper, and they put in a 2 and did not leave a comment though. But thank you very much for that support, and we do appreciate it. And we also have a 2 from Plazath, and thank you very much to Plazath for that support as well, and we do appreciate that once again. And we also have a 2 from Detroit Adam. He said, "You go, Matt." No, thank you. You go. He said, "Give it to those Rooskies and hi to Kells."
And thank you so much for the support and helping the channel to keep on running. And you go, man. But still, a huge thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to B Cat, who puts in a 2 and said it's pronounced Caracol. It's a cat.
Interesting. We'll keep that in mind. And a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And we're on to the next one.
And with that, folks, it is now time to jump into our next super chat, which goes to Jack Ray, who puts in a 5. He said a dump cough stepped off of the bus, waving a paper saying "Peace in our time," and the Russians wrote the paper, drove the bus, and helped all the way.
I got that dumb cough. You ain't got no rolling, man. Like,
You got that dumb truck.
Man, I gotta say, Jack Ray, that's an interesting one. Generally would agree with the sentiments behind it. I would say my personal opinion, my 2 cents on it, but still, humongous thanks to you once again for the support, helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here today, Jack Ray. And you're an old god and a channel legend. So a humongous thanks to you so much once again. And with that, folks, it is time for us.
Does anybody know who we're talking about all the way when we do that? Like when we say, "You ain't got no roly." Does anybody even know who we're talking about? Or is it like falling on deaf ears at this point?
It looks like some people do because they're putting LOLs in the chat, but I don't know. Maybe a lot of people don't know. Would you like to tell them?
Well, I won't say the name of the person, but if anybody gets the reference there, it's one of those guys that likes to run around doing these conferences and stuff like that, talking about, you have to do this and you have to do that to get that rolly in that dump truck. It's like one of these people that like does that. Well, I don't know what the right term for it is. The alpha Chad, like you need to get your shit together type stuff to become an alpha Chad, mega rich person and stuff like that. They say you just like fake dream and junk like that. It's that guy.
And also, I saw someone say, "Did you get my super chat from an hour ago?" And let me make sure that we got it, or did we not? Let me see here. Let me take a little.
Wait a minute. I do see it. It's at the top bar right there. I didn't see it earlier though coming in, but I'd see it at the top bar right now.
Oh, well, let's get to it. What do we got?
So getting to Ross Nibb's super chat, by the way, and also sorry we missed it. I don't know how that happened, but it's in the top bar, but I didn't see it in the actual live chat. But sorry about missing it. And Ross put in a very generous 50 Australian, and we do appreciate it very much, Ross, for that support. He said, "Hey guys, and a nice move to Utah, and it might be too far with only 1 day off work, but if you get a chance to head down to Moab and Kenyan lands, it's well worthwhile, and I just love that part of the country. And can you please take a question from the chat in LSA?"
And a big thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I gotta say, we're very sorry that we missed that earlier. I don't know how we missed it, but we will have a full-scale investigation into how we missed it and figure out why. But a big thanks to you so much for the support in the meantime. And also, that might be a little bit far. I think that is like a couple of hours away from one way. So a round trip would take up most of the day. So we would have to do that on like a Monday, or we would have to do that on a Monday and then stay there overnight and then drive back the next day before we have to get back to running the show. But it is a really cool place down there, Moab. This is actually what the Moab bomb is named after. Actually, I'm kidding. The Moab is just the mother of all bombs, but it's very close to being Moab, Utah. But beyond that, this is Moab. Wow. It's really such a cool place. It's red rocks and desert, kind of like a very arid, not really a desert environment, but a very arid like chaparral in this area. Really neat place. And also the canyon lands are really cool too. There's a potash mine and I think a uranium mine out here too near Moab, if I remember correctly. But this is the canyon lands. Look at that. I mean, that is crazy stuff right there. Beautiful, beautiful scenery. And so maybe one day we will be able to go down there. Let me do this off screen really quickly. Salt Lake City to Moab. That is 3 hours and 40 minutes from where we're at. So that would be quite a drive, because we would have to do about 8 hours in a day. So we'd have to make that into like an overnight thing where we take off in the morning on Monday, go to Moab, stay there the night, and then come back the next day in the morning to be able to make a short war video and all that stuff. That's unfortunately out of our reach at the moment. We'd have to really plan that out and get ready to do that. But it's still a cool place, and I would want to see it one day. And so a humongous thanks to you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. A massive thanks to you so much once again, Rosnip, because folks like you support this channel and help us to keep this thing rolling day in and day out. So, and a humongous thanks to you so much also for giving us some really cool recommendations and travel tips here, because we're always happy to hear some. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. And Matthew, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, now it is time to jump into our live chat questions proper and our Morse code decoders of the stream. And tonight we had the entire roster of Morse code decoders. We had Paul Schultz, Kevin J, Mason Miami, Joni Dog, Norm Pritchett, Airboy Garbo, Her Royal Fluffiness, Kush, compared to Siren Brian Blairstown. And they said the Morse code says, what the hell does this mean that the plan is a Russian plan and then they aren't sure? What the hell? And LT, LSA.
And as the sound of money, and then it's dead on the nail, both the message and the Morse code deciphering. Y'all are absolutely incredible with how y'all are able to decipher those Morse code messages. I mean, it's truly an incredible thing. And I got to congratulate y'all greatly for deciphering those Morse code messages and getting that right once more. So a huge shout out to y'all once again. And with that, folks, we are going to be moving on into the 3 live chat questions for the night because, unfortunately, we are running overtime. And so with that, we are on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one right here is going to go to none other than Dumb Wabbits. They said, quick off topic, why was the USA not at the G20 summit in South Africa?
I actually haven't really been following the G20 news a whole lot, so unfortunately I'd have to declare ignorance on that. But Matthew, do you know a little bit more about that?
So the reason why the USA didn't go to that is because the USA is alleging that South Africa is engaging in, I think they're calling it a genocide. So I don't know enough to corroborate that or not. There's always something going on in South Africa. So, I mean, it's possible. But the U.S. is making a very big deal about that. And we did not attend the G20 because of that, because it's being held in South Africa.
Oh, yeah. Well, that should have been the answer that I gave, because that's what they were talking about a while ago. But yeah, unfortunately, I just haven't been following that whole drama, and it's a little bit interesting with that. It's a little bit interesting with that whole thing. What they're alleging and all, and yeah. Well, it is what it is. But with that, I hope Matthew was able to address that well, because I unfortunately didn't know the answer to that one. But with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Who LFG, who said, did that drone that was seen over the Netherlands evade it like what we saw with the Hellfire missile off the coast of Yemen in that video footage?
We actually don't know at the moment because we only have a written report from the Dutch Ministry of Defense. We don't have any video evidence to be able to confirm what exactly the action entailed. So at the moment, we had to declare ignorance on that, but we're just assuming it was most likely a conventional drone and it broke line of sight by ducking behind a tree line or something like that where it wasn't really visible, or there may have been a house in the backstop. So that's what we're assuming at the moment. So with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is going to be none other than, guess who? It's going to be, trying to pick here from the best ones. Let's see, there's a lot of good ones. Let's see here. This one's going to go to Fuyuma, and he gets the last question of the night. Fuyuma said, why not just use the drones to take down other drones? Netherlands, Europe.
That's a good question, and I just think that that sort of a military ability hasn't been developed in a lot of these countries yet, and that's why we're not seeing that. But it is a great idea, and it's the most efficient thing that the Ukrainians have done so far in day-to-day drone interceptions, and also larger amounts of machine gun ground fire that's accurately aimed is also as effective as that as well, at least at low altitudes against slower moving targets. But with that, I hope that does address that well, at least the best I can. And also, I saw someone say this in the chat. Just want to address this one really quickly. Someone said in Africa they're killing a certain group of people and a certain group of religion. Let's just be honest here. In Africa, people are getting killed everywhere. Like I can come up with the LRA in Uganda, which is a Christian militant group, and they go around slaughtering everyone. And then you can find other groups that are claim that they're Islamic and they're slaughtering everyone. And then you can find groups that claim they're communist or democratic or they're the freedom fighters and everything else in between. They're slaughtering everyone everywhere. I mean, it's a highly unstable region of the world, and you can find any genocide and massacre to fit any description in Africa at any given moment. So it's more so of like a narrative that's being pushed out on that, but the reality is that it's just a brutal place to be most of the time, just because of how unstable it is, and also how the warlords generally run everything that's outside of the capital of most of these countries in Central Africa specifically. But with that, it is time for us to round this thing on out. I got to thank you all so much once again for watching tonight. We had a huge amount of people here tonight. We had a peak viewership of 12.5 thousand people. We're entirely honored to know that so many of y'all were here tonight and enjoying the stream and watching it with us as we covered the news and gave our analysis. We will, of course, be seeing you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of news from around the world. And, folks, if there is enough news to make a short war video tomorrow, Enforcer Matt will be the one making that short war video if there is enough news. So with that, folks, we'll see you either for the short war video or the nightly stream tomorrow, which will be the Sunday night fundraiser. And so with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe. Slava Ukraini, Ram Slava, long live the Lee Spring Army, and long live the Republic.
And with that, folks, thank you all for joining us once again tonight. And a huge shout out to the massive amount of folks that were here tonight. We appreciate every single one of you for joining us yet again for another big day of news. And tomorrow is Sunday, which is typically, historically, the day when usually a lot of big news breaks out. And of course, it will be the Sunday night fundraiser stream as well. So be sure to join us for that. And in the meantime, thank you all once again, and Slava Ukraine, Heroes Slava, get some rest, and good night.
To God.